All right. Aloha kako. Greetings to everyone. Before I continue, I first want to acknowledge that though we are all meeting virtually, each one of us stands somewhere in the state of Washington. And we must recognize that this land we currently occupy was taken from the indigenous people that live here. I want to take this moment to allow us all to acknowledge the sovereignty of the native peoples whose lands we occupy. For myself, I live in Olympia, on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Nisqually, the Chehalis, and Squaxin Island peoples. Olympia and the South Puget Sound region are covered by the Medicine Creek Treaty, signed under duress in 1854. And as such, I acknowledge and affirm their tribal sovereignty and extend my heartfelt respect to them and all indigenous peoples. I also want to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter, that systemic racism continues to perpetuate injustice upon BIPOC members of our communities. And as progressives, we are committed to fighting injustice and to bending the arc of the moral universe towards socioeconomic equijustice for all. We are in the endorsement section of our meeting, and we have a large number of candidates to get through. I want to acknowledge my appreciation for all of our voting members who read through the 17 candidate questionnaires that we published on our website that we received from these candidates. And right now, I'm just going to go straight into that section. So first up on my list, and Justin, help me if there's any modifications to this. But first we have Denny Heck, candidate Denny Heck, running for Lieutenant Governor of Washington State. Denny will have 2 minutes to give.
Wait, Keo, have you assigned a timer, and would you like me to do it?
Oh yes, please do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
2 minutes, yeah.
You're at our 2-minute mark. Who do we have? Is candidate Heck speaking, or do we have a proxy for?
This is his campaign manager, Keoki.
All right.
Hi, everyone. My name's Keoki Pierce, and I'm Denny Heck's campaign manager for his race for Lieutenant Governor. I'm sorry we can't be there in person today, but I am honored to have the opportunity to speak with you on behalf of Denny, and I know he is honored to be considered for your endorsement today. Now, Denny likes to say that there is only one reason to run for public office, and that is to make a difference. He has spent his career dedicated to making a positive difference in the lives of folks in Washington State, both here at home and in DC. And he's excited to have the opportunity to return home to Olympia to continue that work to make sure that Washington State is the best place for all people to live. Now, I know you've all had a chance to look over our questionnaire, and if you haven't, I encourage you to do so, as that is the best place to get a good understanding of the progressive values and policies Denny is advocating for in this campaign. But I just wanted to take the time to highlight a few quick things for you. Denny is committed to progressive values, such as rebuilding our post-COVID economy with racial equity at the forefront, because Black Lives Matter. Period. Full stop. Denny's also committed to working to solving income inequity, committed to advocating for and pushing for green energy infrastructure and cleaning up the Puget Sound, supportive of creating a Washington State Bank, finding more progressive revenue sources, such as a capital gains tax, because as we know, the budget is going to be tough and we are going to need to find ways to not cut the budget, but to find more income sources. Additionally, Denny will continue to be a champion for housing issues to ensure that all Washingtonians have a pillow, blanket, and a roof over their head. Also, Washington has the tools to ensure that everyone within its borders can afford to seek healthcare whenever and however they wish to. Denny, I am honored to.
All right, that was 2 minutes. Okay, now this is a race where we have two candidates. That was the first candidate. And now we need to hear from the second candidate, Marko Liias. Is Marko Liias here, or does the candidate have a proxy?
I am here.
All right, great. Thank you, candidate Liias. Now, as you see, there's 2 minutes. 2 minutes for your speech, and then we'll have a Q&A after. Is our timekeeper ready, Cedar? All right, great. Go ahead and start.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and my friends in the Progressive Caucus. I'm Marko Liias, a lifelong Washingtonian, state senator, and a college professor, proud union member, running to be our next lieutenant governor. The role of lieutenant governor is unique. First, serves as president of the Senate, and as the only senator in the race, as someone that has leadership experience delivering change in the Senate, I believe I'm uniquely qualified for the role. And it's actually what led our current Lieutenant Governor, Cyrus Habib, to endorse my campaign, calling me the most qualified to take over as president. The Lieutenant Governor also serves as number 2 in the executive branch. And I believe with the right person in the role, this office could be a game changer to bring the bold transformation we need in our state right now. I'm the only candidate in the race that's endorsed whole Washington and Medicare for all. We need universal single-payer healthcare for every single Washingtonian. COVID-19 has shown us that an employer-based model does not work. We also need dramatic investments in clean energy and clean technology. This is what will help us with a just recovery to COVID-19, where we are cleaning up our environment, creating jobs, addressing environmental justice and equity, all in one step. And I believe that the Green New Deal at the federal level, a state level program, is exactly what we need here. And then in every decision we make, whether it's in education, healthcare, housing, across the board, we have to use an equity and social justice lens as we make the important decisions ahead. We need to have a no austerity approach. We need new progressive revenue. But above all, we have to make sure that we're addressing systemic racism and inequality in our economy systematically. My record in the Senate, taking on the big interests, Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, shows that I know what it takes to build an economy that works for everyone. That's what I'm going to do as our next lieutenant governor. Proud to have a lot of great progressive endorsements, including Progressive Labor, UFCW 21, SEIU 1199 and 775, the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. 3/4 of my Senate Democratic colleagues would be honored to have your support as well.
All right, thank you. And that was under time, which is great. I see 3 blue hands up, and the order I saw them in was Cedar, then Troy, then Amber.
I removed it.
Okay, then it's Troy, Amber, Cheryl Hallinger. All right. So I will take the first 3. Troy, I believe you had the first question. 15
Yeah, thank
seconds.
you.
Question, 1 to answer.
I have a question for Denny Heck's campaign manager. Can you speak to the distinction you make between access to healthcare and universal single payer?
Great question. I do not believe she's here. We were listening to a recording.
Oh, is that the recording?
Yes. That's why we were able to be clear on the 2-minute mark. I believe her video was almost 3 minutes. So
so then
that would be a great question for Denny.
It would be. I'd love to hear Marko expand if you'd like.
Okay, can you restate the question, and then we'll leave it to Marko.
Marko, it'd be really it's important to me to understand your thoughts on sort of the juxtaposition between you and Denny Heck's position on Medicare for all, or accessible healthcare versus universal single payer.
All right, great. And I just want to make sure that Cedar, our timekeeper, has the minute clock ready. Go ahead, candidate Liias.
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. I can't speak to Denny's position. I can be crystal clear. I'm the only candidate in the race that has publicly endorsed Medicare for all and our state-based version, whole Washington. I'm really proud that here in the state, we have taken a step forward to create a public option in the interim, but we're really focused in on that goal of universal single payer. And there's actually a task force meeting right now. They just had a meeting this week to chart the path forward and bring a recommendation to the legislature on how to fund universal health care for all Washingtonians, strongly supportive of that. Look forward to working with a new administration in DC. I'm so proud of the work that Congressman Jayapal did as part of the Unity Task Force to make sure that in any federal health care plan that's passed, that there's the ability for states to do universal single payer. That's what I believe we need to do in here in Washington. I will be a supporter of that. I'll be pressing on that. I'll be using my role as president of the Senate, as well as the leadership responsibility as number 2 in the executive branch, to be pressing hard to get universal single payer here in our state.
All right, great. Thank you. Next up, I have on my list is Amber. 15-second question, 1-minute response. Go ahead, Amber, question.
Thank you for joining us, Marko. Appreciate it in person. My question has to do with the recently passed state platform. I'm wondering if there's any takeaways from that, and what are the top 2 issues that you would be working on as your most important roles?
Well, I'm strongly supportive of the platform, proud of the great work that went into it. I love the background photo you've got, by the way, there from Capitol Hill. I had a chance to visit that mural. It's gorgeous. In terms of top priorities, I think COVID-19 recovery is my most important priority, but embedded in that is addressing systemic racism and a just recovery from COVID-19. We've got to make sure we're protecting essential workers. We've got to make sure that we're lifting wages, that we're ensuring equitable economic development in communities all over the state, and that we're advancing healthcare and access to housing as a part of that. A second priority is tough as a Democrat to pick, but I would say that in order to make sure that that recovery works, we need progressive tax reform. I support a capital gains tax, a high earner tax, probably in the form of a payroll tax in the short term, although we need to look at an income tax in the long term, as well as closing loopholes, as well as raising the estate tax, a variety of things to ask our wealthiest Washingtonians to chip in to help fund this just recovery that we need to plan for our state and for people all over Washington.
All right, thank you. And we need to unmute Cheryl Hallinger. Cheryl Hallinger, you have the 3rd question. 15 seconds to ask, 1-minute response. And I understand it takes some time for the unmute situation, so I'll give you a little extra time. Like 5 more seconds. All right. Next up, I see John Comerford. If we can get John, go ahead, John. 15-second question, 1-minute response.
Yes, Marko. Just for background, Marko and I ran against each other for state treasurer 4 years ago. And I endorsed Marko early in this campaign. And one of the reasons I endorsed him and support him is because of his position on public banking. Marko, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit more about why you're supporting public banking and what you can do as president of the Senate.
Well, thanks, John. It's a great question. And I think that a state bank, we've seen North Dakota use that mechanism for the last 100 years, and it's ensured access to credit for small businesses. It's also brought down the cost of borrowing for state and local governments. And so strongly supportive of it, member of the state bank caucus and the state Senate, working with colleagues like Patty Kuderer and Lisa Wellman and Bob Hasagawa to make it happen. I'm also really interested in the intersection with student loan refinancing and student loan forgiveness. We've got a whole generation that are trapped in student debt, and the opportunities to invest our money here locally. So as president of the Senate, would use my position as chair of the Rules Committee to help advance legislation. We are right now writing the business plan for a state bank. We need to implement that here in the next 2 years. Look forward to being supportive of that, following the lead of Bob and Lisa and Patty and others to get this done. Also excited that we've got an amazing Democrat in the treasurer's race that's on his path to victory, who's supportive of this as well. Our current state treasurer is not. And so I think that we see the stars beginning to align in a way that we could actually make this happen here in Washington.
And that's time. Thank you, candidate Liias. In order to keep to our time and respect all questioners, I am sticking to the 3-question rule. I would love to hear more, but we just don't have time. So at this point, the Q&A section is over, and I will I'd like to hear any motions to endorse. Let's see. I see one blue hand up. That is Carol McMahon, and also Nicolette Oliver. Carol, are you putting up a motion to endorse a candidate? And once again, I understand the time it takes to mute and unmute, so I'll give you some extra time. We'll say,
No, thank you. That was
Oh, okay.
intended for a question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nicolette Oliver, I see your blue hand is up. Are you making a motion?
Yes, I move to endorse Marko Liias.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to endorse Marko Liias. Do we have a second? I see Leah Perkles. The Perkle hand is up. Is that a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you very much. All right. So we have the motion and it's seconded. We have a little bit of time for debate. Nicolette, this was your motion. Would you like to speak for? Yeah, we'll unmute you.
Yes, I think that we should definitely endorse Marko Liias. I am very passionate about Medicare for all. I am very passionate about a state bank. As a national Bernie delegate, that was something that I was elected into that role to advocate for. And I really like that Marko stands up for those values. I think those are progressive values. And I think when we think about what is the value of the endorsement of our caucus, I think that he adds value to our organization and to our state. So I strongly hope that everybody votes yes to endorse Marko Liias. Thank you.
All right, great, Nicolette. And I didn't set a time, but Nicolette took about 25 seconds. So is there anyone speaking against this motion? Once again, is there anyone speaking against this motion? Third time, anyone speaking against this motion? All right, now this is the time for us to vote. If you're voting yes, use the yes button. If no, the no button. I will give time to call on multiple people on, well, you heard it before. If there's multiple people on one device, I will verbally request your vote.
So Keoki, all you have to do is go to the top and scroll down and look for the ones with the numbers, and we have just one, and that's Leah and Steve Perkle.
Yeah, and if you're on the phone, you know what to do. There's a blue hand. Okay, Perkle, I would love to get your verbal vote on this endorsement. Endorsement?
I vote to endorse Marko.
And I vote to endorse Marko.
All right, we have 2 votes for Marko. Thank you, Perkle. Do we have an official count, Tiffany?
On how many we have voting members?
We have 27 yes with 25 check marks and 2 voice votes, and then we have 2 no votes.
All right, great. With 27, thank you, Tiffany. With 27 yeses, the endorsement vote passes. Congratulations. Marko Liias, you have earned the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Thank you very much. Oh, I see some cheers. All right, and I would like to say, if you had questions but you weren't able to answer them, you could forward them to Marko. If you could put the link to your webpage on there, people can donate, contribute in any other way, and ask questions. Next up, we have candidate Tracy Rushing, State House Rep for the 14th LD, position 1. Candidate Rushing, are you ready for your 2 minutes? And is our timekeeper ready as well? I'm assuming.
I believe I'm ready. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Awesome.
I got a hands up from our timekeeper. Remember, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you all for having me today. I'm a local ER doctor here, and I feel like through my job, I've been witness to some extreme disparities in health, in opportunity, and in general happiness at play in my district. I'm also a mom, and between that role and my job, running for political office was actually never an aspiration for me until the pandemic. Having cared for many patients who have suffered and died from the same respiratory distress syndrome caused by COVID, really, I was just frankly shocked and appalled by my district's current representative, Chris Corey, and his decision to file a frivolous lawsuit against the governor's emergency proclamation. Yakima County has suffered more than most others on the West Coast, and instead of advocating for those workers and families here that have been disparately affected, his own constituents, my own neighbors, he's chosen a lawsuit and cavalier messaging, which have abetted the spread of disease. So when I saw that he remained unopposed on the final filing day, I felt compelled to run. Really what it came down to is we've tried to teach our kids that when something is broken, we should try to fix it. And that's really what I decided that I needed to model. So unlike Chris Corey's consistent message that less government is better, I believe that leaders have the potential to help and the responsibility to try. I think our district needs leaders who recognize that our economy is dependent on the well-being of both our people and our environment. I think that I have the perspective and the compassion to represent diverse viewpoints across the district, while also advocating for policies that protect our people, our jobs, and our planet. Just thinking about my own kids, I mean, really from the playroom to the planet, we've tried to teach our kids to leave the world better than they found it. And that's really the yardstick here. It informs my care for the next patient I see, my respect for our planet, and my desire for a more fair, loving, and just society. These priorities have been lacking from Central Washington's current leadership. I believe I represent a common sense, compassionate alternative who will strive for policies that optimize equality and opportunity for all, not just the highest earners. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, candidate Rushing. Let's see, we have time for 3 questions. And I just want to suggest to my fellow board members that if we, to kind of free up our time to allow more members to give questions, since we only have 3. Do we have any questions? I see one question from Leah Perkle. Go ahead and, if we can unmute the Perkles, you can go ahead and ask your question. Remember, 15 seconds for a question and 1-minute response from the candidate.
My question is for you is, where do you stand on supporting single-payer healthcare?
I am 100% behind single-payer healthcare. I've actually already officially endorsed Whole Washington. As someone who works in an emergency department and sees the shortfalls is an understatement, but shortfalls in our current system, I think single-payer healthcare is really the only way to go if our goal is to optimize primary care, prevention, and not be using our hospitals and our emergency departments as our catch-all for our community.
All right, thank you. We have a second question from Cheryl Hallinger. If Cheryl can be unmuted. Remember, Cheryl, 15 seconds for your question.
Okay, I'm hoping it will work this time. I'm on a new device. Tracy, how do you feel about ranked choice voting?
That's a great question. That's something that in my district in particular has been talked about a lot recently, and what we're hopefully transitioning towards. Compared to our current system here, I think it does optimize various groups to have a stronger voice in the voting process. So long story short, I do think it's a good model. I am in support of it. I think especially in Central Washington, where various minority groups have historically been disenfranchised through our policies regarding voting and districting, I think ranked choice voting is a good first step. It's certainly not going to fix all of the problems, but I do think it addresses a good many of them that'll at least get us on our way.
Great, thank you. The next and last blue hand is Martha Coaster. Martha, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, my question is about ranked choice voting. What protocol do you recommend for hand count auditing of ranked choice voting?
That is a question that I am not going to be able to give you a definitive answer on. I feel like just being new into the political side of things myself, those sort of specifics right now, I would certainly be deferring to the experts. Those are things that I'd recommend on advisors and the data that we have currently to help guide. But I will say my honest answer to that is I don't know at this point in time because I'm not quite well versed in it enough.
All right. Thank you, Martha, and thank you, Candidate Rushing. Two quick things real quick. One, I said put your question, or put the, Justin has put the candidate's web address in the chat because candidates can't access that. I would also say, Cedar brought up a good point, which is we should move the candidates into the waiting room while we're doing our votes. So thank you, Candidate Rushing.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion if anyone wants to put a motion up. I see the first hand I saw was Roxanne Thayer. Roxanne, go ahead and unmute and let me hear your motion. You can speak, Roxanne. I understand people are having some difficulties with the audio, so I'll give a few more seconds and then I'll go on to Rial. All right, Rial, you're next up. Do you have a motion?
Yes, I motion that we endorse Tracy Rushing for state representative.
Thank you very much. Cedar, I saw your hand up. Are you seconding this motion? Cedar, are you seconding?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We have a second from Cedar. Rial, as this is your motion, you have 30 seconds to speak for it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that means this is a no-brainer. She's clearly a solid progressive in this race. She's in a very, very tough district. And so I commend her for being bold enough to challenge and take on the heat that comes with it as not just a Democrat, but a progressive Democrat. You face a lot of heat in red districts like this. So this is what we need to see more of, is people willing to take on this challenge and be bold enough to do this in rural districts like this. Because when we actually get to talk to constituents, we make a lot of sense to them. And we saw that across the country with Bernie's campaign as well. So I think we need more Tracy Rushings in the state to actually move the needle and keep pushing things like this forward.
And time. Thank you. All right, that was great. Do we have anyone speaking against this motion? Once again, do we have anyone speaking against this motion? Last time, anyone speaking against this motion? All right, great. We will now vote. Please use the yes/no buttons. And while you do that, I will ask the Perkles to give their verbal vote.
There, second. We both voted yes.
Yes.
Chair, point of order. There are two members. I just wanted to make sure that we haven't lost, that they have issues. Rob Dolan. I just want to make sure Claus Joens, Rob Dolan, and Sharon Abreu and Ryan Johnson all know how to find their yes/nos.
All right, thank you. I'm wondering if Sharon is still in that in a meeting, but yeah.
Oh yeah, she is. She is.
Okay, so in the participant box at the bottom, you have the option to vote yes, click on yes, or click on no. I want to make sure that everybody has had the opportunity to do that. I see there are a couple members who have not voted yet. They could be abstaining. So I will give a few more seconds. Before I call the count. All right. Do we have, pardon?
I think that Ann and Zahid, you might need to do a voice vote as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Cedar. All right. Ann and Zahid, give us a verbal vote, yes?
Yes. But we cannot post in the chat to everyone. I don't know why that option is not there for everyone. We could only do it to one of the co-hosts or Cedar. So we just might as well. Anne has been writing to Cedar. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. And are you voting yes?
Yes, both.
All right, great. And I will make sure that I request your verbal vote in all of the voting. Thank you. Let's see. I believe those are the only two that require a verbal vote. Yes. All right. Do we have an official count?
We do. It's 27 yes with 4 voice yeses and then 1 chat yes from Rial. So that's 32 yes totals, and I don't see any no's.
All right, great. Can we bring the candidate back in? And thank you, Jessica. And we can also clear and I am waiting to see if the candidate is back in.
Yeah, candidate Tracy Rushing.
I'm right here.
Oh, hi, Tracy Rushing. Well, I wanted to congratulate you. You got the it was unanimous. You have earned the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. And my personal thanks. Rial is correct. Thank you for answering the call, especially in a red district. We wish you the best of luck, and I encourage everyone to do everything they can to help you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. That's excellent news.
All right, thank you. And we will get your link. Justin, send it to him if he doesn't have it already, and we'll put your website link in our chat box. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you guys again.
Thank you. Next up is Devin Kuh, running for State House of Representatives, 14th LD, position 2, possible seatmate for our previous candidate. Devin, you have 2 minutes to speak. Are you?
Yes, indeed.
All right, great. So you have 2 minutes, and our timekeeper, it looks like our timekeeper is ready. Go ahead.
Hi, all, and thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce myself and seek your endorsement. My name is Devin Kuh. I'm a high school teacher who will stand up for our hardworking families. I will fight for education and ensure all our residents have health care and take decisive action to address climate change. I believe strongly that we must approach each policy or piece of legislation with a focus on equity. This cannot be a separate part of our beliefs or actions, but ingrained within every action we take. COVID has highlighted the incredible number of roles that our schools play in our communities, and we need to be reinvesting in them and systematically addressing the opportunity gaps that are present. These gaps are only being widened by COVID, and addressing them must be a top priority. We must also stop funding schools based on property values or test scores, but holistically by considering the needs of the community and the district. We must consider how we are punishing students in our schools and make sure that our consequences are restorative and supportive, not punitive. I also believe wholeheartedly in the necessity to provide healthcare for all of our residents. Healthcare is a right that should not be tied to one's employment. We currently cannot count on a national solution, so Washington must keep striving to be a leader in this area. Finally, we must reimagine producing and consuming power and take swift actions to cut carbon emissions in the fight against climate change. By investing in clean energies and new technologies, we can promote environmental and economic health, both in the short and in the long term. We must hold big business accountable for their consumption and tax them for the negative costs of fossil fuel consumption. As an educator, I will center the needs of my constituents and make sure that equity is the driving force of all of my policy decisions. Thank you all so much for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Devin. Now is the time for questions. Let's see. Remember, we have time for 3 questions, 15 seconds to ask the question, 1 minute response. First person I see is Bunny Hatcher. If we can get Bunny unmuted. Thank you, Bunny. You have 15 seconds to ask your question, and I hope I'm not being too loud. All right, we'll get back to Bunny, but I see that Cedar also has her hand up. And
okay, now I'm unmuted.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
I wasn't able to unmute myself at first.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. I have one question, and that's about charter schools. You pointed out in your response form that you have seen firsthand the value of the freedom and local control that comes with charter schools, even though you say they can drain funds from traditional public schools. So where exactly do you stand on charter schools? Do we fund them with public money or not?
Thank you, Bunny. Go ahead, Devin.
Devin, thank you so much, Bunny. That is a great question. I say that as a recognition of my background in educational experience, but I do strongly believe that our focus needs to be on traditional public education and ensuring that those schools are being funded and that they aren't draining those funds. So my stance is to be supporting our public schools first and foremost, and moving towards the local control to our communities so they can choose what is best. I think federal education policy is limiting and doesn't allow our schools to address equity concerns that face their local communities. So really instilling that local control and power is an important step for our public system, non-charter.
All right, thank you, Devin. The next question goes to Cedar, followed by Marilyn. Cedar, I see your mic's good, so go ahead.
Gotta time myself here. I understand you're running a write-in campaign, and I'm curious about how that came to be.
So I ran a write-in campaign for the primary, but garnered enough votes in the primary in order to make it onto the general ballot. And it came kind of like Tracy was talking, just a little bit later. So I opened up my ballot in the middle of July 19th, I think it was, and saw that both Curtis King, our state senator, and then Gina Mossbrooker, who I'm running to oppose, were running unopposed, and felt that it was important for us to have progressive voices contesting for these seats and making sure we have a chance to have representation that more aligns with our views. And so in 12 days of campaigning before the primary, was able to secure enough write-in votes to make it onto the printed ballot for November. Thanks,
wow.
Peter.
All right, thank you. Last question goes to Marilyn Chase. Marilyn, go ahead and unmute yourself. You will have 15 seconds to ask a question.
Thank you. I have essentially it's a 2-part question. Devin, I was a bit unclear. I didn't think you were forthright in your question or your answer about charter schools. So I will put it to you once again. Do you or do you not support charter schools? Okay, that's the second one. And the other part of this question is, do you have any ideas what we ought to do to address the housing shortage for low-income people? Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that follow-up. I don't support charter schools in their current form, but I do support increasing local control. So no to charter schools, but less federal control in our education system would be great. As far as housing for low income communities, I really think we need to be looking at how we're holding big businesses in communities accountable for their roles and the services that they benefit from in those communities. So whether it's large corporations in cities and taxing them to help fund and support affordable housing that will help give stability and allow people to get onto their feet. Or in my district, we're largely large agricultural companies, making sure that they're paying their fair share in taxes in order to support creating affordable housing for our communities.
All right.
Mr. Chair, we have a point of order.
Thank you. The point of order is from Troy.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
That'll be after the vote.
Okay, after the vote, I'll remember that.
Thank you, Jesse.
All right. Q&A is over, and I am willing to entertain a motion for endorsement. Looking for a motion. Once again, second time, motion. Cedar, go ahead.
I move to endorse him. I mean, it's my neck of the woods, and
okay.
Just
all right. So we have a motion to endorse. I think the next hand up, I believe, was Andrew's. Andrew, are you seconding that?
I am.
All right, great. So we have a Cedar, you have the motion. Andrew's endorsing or seconding. Cedar, can you go ahead? You have 30 seconds to speak to your motion.
Are we having the candidates in the room, or what are we doing?
Oh, I thought that was for the vote, but yeah, we can go ahead and if we can have the candidate moved into the waiting room.
No offense, it's just how we've always done things, so.
All right, thank you, Cedar, and go ahead.
So yeah, I read his questionnaire and I had some questions about the charter school stuff as well. But it is Eastern Washington is so tough. And, you know, people like him and a lot of other people I know who look on the ballot and go, good Lord, you know, or it's 5 o'clock on Friday of filing week and no one has filed against a Republican incumbent. We have to support them, and to think that he knocked out a write-in campaign in 14 days and got on the general, I think that says something. I mean, I don't personally know him, or never met him, but I think it says something about what's happening in his community, and so I would support that.
And time. All right, great. Thank you, Cedar. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? All right, Marilyn, is your hand up to speak against it, or was it from the questioning section?
Against it.
All right, go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
I'd like to speak against supporting him. I think that we have been fighting this issue on charter schools for too long, and he was very explicit. I mean, I thought maybe I misunderstood what he was saying, but even in his second go round on this, he didn't particularly care for charter schools in the way that they are currently proposed. Our position has been consistently no charter schools in any form. We support public education, and I think that we have to stand by what we say we represent. And the other thing is, I think that we need to take a look at housing issues all over this state and recognize that we have a failure of the free market to provide housing, affordable housing for low-income people. And I think we need to put that out there and be very clear.
That is time, more than time. But thank you, appreciate it. All right, Andrew, are you speaking for?
I am speaking for.
Okay, 30 seconds.
So I don't love the charter schools. I've got to concede that point. However, we got to look at the whole candidate. And if we want a progressive shift in our state, especially in Eastern Washington, we're going to have to get progressive voices, even imperfect ones, at the table, onto a platform where they can be heard.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Do we have anyone else speaking against? Anyone else speaking against? All right, third time, anyone speaking against? Okay, debate is closed. We are moving to the vote. So I will ask people to use their yes, no buttons in the participant box to vote. And while that is happening, I will seek a verbal vote first from Ann and Zahed.
Abstain and abstain.
Okay, that's 2 abstain. Thank you. Next is from the Perkles.
I'm going to vote no because I strongly do not support charter schools.
And I vote no.
Okay, 2 noes. Thank you. And 2 abstains. All right.
As the vice chair, may
What's that?
I suggest that whether he wins or loses this vote, that you tell him why? Like the point is the charter school.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. While we're waiting up on the vote, I think I have something I'm supposed to read. As part of the support we provide our endorsed candidates, we will share information on where to find these candidates online, as well as updates on a candidate's virtual events to include events specifically designed for caucus members, as well as a host of updates on all the ways the Washington State Progressive Caucus can support the candidates that are endorsed today, as well as candidates we have endorsed already. All right, let's see, take that off. Do we have our count, Jessica?
Right now we have 20 recorded yes check marks and 6 no.
And 2 abstain.
And 2 abstentions. And then 2 also no votes, voice votes from the Perkles.
Okay, so it's 20 yes, 6 no, 2 abstain?
No.
No?
There was 8 no because the 2 of them were voice votes.
Yes, 8 total no.
Okay, 8 total no, thank you.
And we have 21 yeses.
21 yeses, okay.
And the threshold is 22.
Okay, thank you, that was my next question. So the threshold for endorsement is 22 votes. This candidate has 21 votes.
And you have not voted, Chair.
Of course. Okay. Thanks, Amber.
What's it gonna be, Keoki?
We also have Marilyn Chase with her hand raised.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Marilyn.
You're muted, Marilyn.
Yeah, don't you vote to break ties?
Yes, yes, I do.
He doesn't vote to, he's set himself up to be the fall guy here.
No. It's you know.
He has no tie-making ability. He just votes, period.
Gotcha.
Is there anyone in this meeting who's from his district?
I'm not seeing any. All right. I don't ask anybody to justify their vote, but for me, it's tough because yes, we want representation, but B, we're a hard no on charter, and I'm stuck on that with him because the way he answered the question didn't answer the question for me.
Hold his feet to the fire and tell him we'll take him out next time.
All right. That's our vote. Okay. All right, we can let him in. Is he in? I can't tell.
Please rejoin it.
I'm going to assume he's in. Devin. I'd like to actually see this person. Is he in, Jessica? Oh, I see. Okay. Devin, it was a really close vote, but you have not earned the endorsement from the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Like I said, it was a close vote. I encourage you to reach out to our members and our members to reach out to you to let you know where things stood. But I thank you for running and for running a write-in campaign. And I wish the best of luck to you in the future. All right.
Thank you all so much for your time and consideration.
Chair, point of order.
Yes, thank you.
I do
Denny.
not
Thanks,
believe with Denny Heck's absence, I think we forgot to vote on whether or not to endorse him.
Well, we did open up the floor for endorsements, and the only endorsement we heard was from Marko Liias. I requested any other endorsement or any other motion to endorse.
And so nobody wanted to endorse. Okay, I just want it. Yeah.
Right. Just a point of clarification. Appearance here does not constitute a motion. After they speak, someone in the membership needs to make a motion to endorse.
I believe Keoki just said that, but yeah, I thank you for the double.
All right, thank you. Moving on, our next candidate is Kassandra Bessert, State House of Representatives, 18th LD, position 1. Candidate Bessert, are you ready for your 2 minutes? I know.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you pretty well. Okay. And Cedar, are you ready with the? Yes, you are. All right. Okay, candidate Bessert, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
All right. I'll go ahead and keep this pretty short because I am in a very similar situation to where Tracy is, where we have a 10-year Republican incumbent who decided he was safe enough to go ahead and sue the governor during a healthcare emergency. The reason that I'm running is a lot of white hot anger attached to just not having an advocate in Olympia for the community that I grew up in. Also the community that I saw go through the recession in 2008 through 2011. It's something that I care about deeply, and I just want the opportunity for my hometown and the other small communities around Vancouver and a little chunk into Vancouver, because it is a little bit of a gerrymandered district, to have an advocate and have a voice, and particularly a progressive voice that's going to do things like prioritize housing security, prioritize public health, and prioritize getting us back to work with good paying jobs. So I'll go ahead and leave it at a minute and a half and move on to the questions.
All right, great. So now if you have a question, please raise your blue hand. I see a question from Roxanne Thayer. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Roxanne. You have 15 seconds to ask your question, and the candidate will have 1 minute to respond. Oops. Go ahead, Roxanne.
She needs to send her question to Jessica in chat because her audio isn't working.
All right. Roxanne, just to double up on what Justin just said, please put your question to Jessica, and then we can get it into the chat and get it that way. While we're waiting, go ahead and put your blue hand down. And do we have other questions? Leah Perkle. Go ahead and unmute. All right, Leah.
I'm going to ask the same question I asked the other candidates. Where do you stand on single payer healthcare with the COVID and the people of our community losing their jobs and losing healthcare? Where do you stand on that?
I'm going to copy again Tracy and just say that we need to move towards it as fast as we can. So that's where I'm at.
All right, great. Let's see. I think we may have that other question on here. I'm not seeing.
Yeah, if Jessica gets it, she could just vocally read it for her.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica.
But that's what Roxanne told me in a chat she was going to be doing, was going to be sending it as a chat.
All right, great. While we're waiting for that.
The question was for the last candidate, so no question.
No question.
Oh, not for that. Okay.
All right, last call for questions for candidate Bessert. All right, candidate Bessert, we're going to put you in the waiting room while we deliberate on votes. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have a motion on the floor? I'll ask for a second time. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, I motion that we endorse Kassandra Rial.
All right. Rial has a motion to endorse. Amber, are you seconding? I'm assuming that's a second.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Rial, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Kind of similar to what I said about Tracy is just like this is a district that actually should be winnable by Democrats. It's the 20th LD. It's right outside Vancouver. It's in Clark County. It's sad to see the Democrats not investing in more candidates to do this. Just like the people are running on their own and not supported. So we need to step up and show that support that we're willing to take on these races that the state party overall is not. And I think this is a step in the right direction, definitely in terms of just where we need to go and challenge the Republicans across the board, and especially challenge where Democrats are the establishment party is scared to go.
All right, great. Thank you, Rial. Anyone speaking against this motion? Once again, anyone speaking against the motion? Third time, anyone speaking against the motion?
I'm going to speak against the motion because I'm looking at how Kassandra did in the race, and I'm not seeing that there was really a ton of effort made, and it may not be, even though we need to win where we can, I'm not seeing that we really have seen a lot of work done.
Okay. All right, so we have, representing Democrats win a race in every place. And then we're also looking at speaking against the motion because we are not able to see what the quantity of work done. All right. Anyone speaking for? Anyone speaking for? Third time, anyone speaking for? Carol McMahon, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay. Did you unmute me again?
No, you're
okay,
good.
I'm great. Okay, thanks. I think that we should consider again the Democrat in every place. She is trying to break into Clark County. That's extremely red. And if there's no Democrat running there, it's not because for lack of trying or interest, it's extremely hard. And this woman has got to be super brave just to even get her name in there. What's going to happen while she's running, I have no idea, but she can use a lot of support.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. John Comerford, are you speaking against?
It's a question, really. Do we know for sure there's no other Democrat running? Just a Republican against her?
Good question.
This is the top two. There can only be two candidates.
And there's okay. No other, and there's certainly not a Democrat. Someone's checked to make sure.
Okay.
It's not a Democrat.
Thank you, John. Thomas, you have your blue hand up. Are you speaking against, or is this a question? Can we unmute Thomas?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna piggyback off of Justin's point. I'm not speaking in favor or against. I'm in her district, the 18th LD. I didn't really see her actively campaign during the primary.
Okay.
Like she announced her name, but that was about it, as far as I know.
Okay. Let's see. So we've had. So you're kind of speaking against, which is fine. We're only taking for and against, so that's good. But I did not write down. So we've had 3 for and 3 against, correct, Justin?
We've had 2 for, 2 against, and I think we were going to stay to 2 for, 2 against, weren't we? Or are you doing 3? We're running a little long.
I think I'll go with 2. I don't see any other hands up, and we need to move along. All right, thank you. The debate portion is over. We are now moving to vote. Please use your green yes or red no buttons. And while we're doing that, I will seek the verbal votes from the Perkles and from Ann and Zahid Chaudhry.
Yes, this is a vote for.
Okay, thank you, Zahid. That's 2 yeses.
Yes.
All right, Perkles.
Sorry, we are both, I'm voting yes, because we need to get the Republican that's out of there in office. And she didn't really need to do a lot of work because it was only one Democrat. So I know that I will work with her and Steve will work with her, so.
So that's 2 yeses?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Jessica, do we have a count?
And we now need 20 as some members have left. So we need 20 to hit 60%.
Thank you, Justin.
So we have 21 recorded plus the voice votes, and then 8 no.
All right, and the threshold was 20.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jessica and Justin. Can we bring the candidate in, please? And we can go ahead and clear the votes.
The candidate is here.
All right. Kassandra Bessert. Congratulations, you have earned the endorsement of Washington State Progressive Caucus, and I hear that there are members of the caucus who are looking forward to working with you in your campaign. Thank you very much for seeking our endorsement and for running.
Well, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited.
Yes, and you should be hearing from progressive members that are wanting to volunteer.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you. All right, up next, Shirley Sutton for State House of Representatives, 32nd LD, position 1. Candidate Sutton, are you ready for your 2 minutes? Is candidate Sutton in the virtual house? Yes, she is.
Asking to unmute.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome, candidate Sutton, you will have 2 minutes to give your speech whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much for having me. This is the honor, and I'm really, really excited about this whole ordeal. I am from Yakima, Washington. I'm a native of Yakima, born and reared. So I just want to let you know I am on this side of the state because I accepted a educational administration position at Edmonton Community College. And so I loved it here. I just stayed. All my life, I've worked with the community to find solutions that support equity, well-being, sustainability, and improve public systems. I am running because I want to make a change and support legislation that will make a positive impact for all our homeless populations and those individuals that are underserved. Issues that are important to us all: affordable housing. Everyone has the right to have safe, affordable place to live. Unfortunately, this is not the case because the unsheltered homeless populations continue to increase yearly. I would support builders who would build more public housing, but I would not agree to give state land to the builders for free. Healthcare as a human right. It is our minority populations that suffer the most from not having available quality medical during this pandemic. I would support a single-payer healthcare system that delivers better outcomes at lower expense. Opioid addiction is also a devastating that has ravishing our communities. I also initiated public health programs when I was at Yakima Valley Community College and did a lot of troubleshooting to make sure families and students were healthy. That's what enticed me to become a trainer, a parent educator trainer. The other thing is I want to say is strengthen public education. This is really a major one. Everyone needs to have a basic education. It is a part of our state constitution. We need workers that can read, write, and understand math. I will not support funding of charter schools.
And time. Great ending, by the way. All right. Thank you for that presentation. This is now the time for Q&A. I'm looking for blue hands up. Once again, people will have 15 seconds. Sally Soriano is the first blue hand I've seen. Go ahead and if we can unmute Sally. Sally, you will have 15 seconds for your question, and candidate Sutton, you will have 1 minute to respond. Go ahead, Sally.
Hi, Shirley. Thank you for being here. My question is about police accountability. Given the last few days with the sports figures boycotting their games, how are you looking at police accountability?
We must continue to revise our legislation, policies, and rules that govern that particular profession. We need to provide training and monitoring, and we need to have a community action needs to be part of those decisions that are being made by the police. I think it's very deplorable that in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, that we've got people who are being shot and killed. It's just not acceptable. We've got to start looking at what it is doing, not only to those individuals, families that lose their loved ones, but to the rest of us, because we hear about this and most of it has to do with racism.
All right, thank you, candidate Sutton. Next question comes from John Comerford. If we can unmute John. John, you all have 15 seconds to ask your question. Go ahead.
Sure. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your race and the endorsements you have and how you're doing in it.
Well, I think I'm doing really well. We are really Team Sutton. We really are kicking it off more so after Labor Day. So we're now planning to have a rollout. We are raising money. We're fundraising, I should say, sending out letters and me calling. I think we're going to be okay. I'd like to see us already being past 5,000, but at not this point, but it's getting close.
All right, thank you. And thanks for the question, John. And last question goes to Marilyn Chase. If we can unmute Marilyn.
Shirley, thank you for being here. I just have one quick question. Can you tell me, do you have a position on the state bank that Senator Bob Hasagawa has been proposing?
I am really strongly supporting that. I think that's probably one of the better moves that we can do as Washingtonians and help the individuals that really, really, truly are at poverty line. We need to keep the resources that we have in our state for our community members, not give it out to Wall Street at a tune of $1 billion. That's just ridiculous.
All right.
So I definitely am very, very on point with the state bank. It works for North Dakota. It should be even better working for us.
Great, thank you, candidate Sutton. Thank you for the question, Marilyn Chase. Candidate Sutton, we are going to escort you to the waiting room while we deliberate on the vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I was about to say I'll entertain a motion. I saw Amber's blue hand go up. Amber, do you have a motion?
I do. I would be honored to make a motion to endorse Shirley Sutton for the 32nd.
Awesome, great. Thomas, I see your hand up. I'm assuming you're seconding the motion?
Yes, I am seconding the motion to endorse Shirley Sutton.
And a note to the chair, this is Justin. We are back up to needing 22 because several members came in. So 60% is 22 needed for endorsement.
All right, thank you for the heads up, Justin. Appreciate it. All right, Amber, this is your motion. Would you like to speak to it?
Certainly. I've known Shirley for several years. She's been very active in the 32nd, and we have some very divisive Democratic politics at play in the 32nd over the last few years. I think she would be an amazing change and breath of fresh air to what we currently have going on. And we really need that progressive, strong voice. And she is a great leader that would be able to really meet the needs not only of this district, but the state, and help lead the way for many, many progressive platforms.
All right. Thank you, Amber. I will now look for anyone speaking against the motion. Once again, looking for anyone speaking against the motion. Tiffany.
Yeah, I just want to bring up, so I've been on Snohomish County Democrats Endorsement Committee for the past few years. And when she came to us for endorsement in her Linwood City Council race, one of the questions that we asked was about body cams for police. And she said she was not in support of it because she didn't feel like her community needed that. Even though the city of Linwood had just settled a $1.75 million lawsuit with the family of a man that was shot and killed by police who was in a mental health crisis. So I just have some concerns about where she actually stands. Her questionnaire this year did say that she was in favor of body cams, but based on that last answer, I just have my doubts about whether, like, where she really stands on the issue.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking for? Remember, blue hand. Anyone's? Oh, Sharon Abreu. And if you've already, put your blue hand up, please feel free to bring it back down so I don't get confused. Sharon, you are up next. You're speaking for?
Yeah, well, Shirley was recommended by my friend Linda Boyd, who is very progressive and was the leader of Washington for impeachment. And so I checked out Shirley pretty early on. I was really impressed with her. So I'm speaking in favor of her. But to Tiffany's point, I also say I would like to ask, how long ago was that? And I would like to ask her, what prompted her to change her position, although I can probably guess.
Okay. Great, thank you. That was well within 30 seconds. All right. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? Anyone speaking against the motion? Third time, anyone speaking against the motion? All right. Debate is closed. We are now voting. Please vote with yes or no. If you're on the phone, raise your hand. And I will be asking for the verbal votes of our two. So that's the Chaudhrys and the Perkles.
2 yes.
Yes, 2 yeses. All right, thank you. Perkle?
I'm voting yes.
And I'm voting yes.
All right, 2 yeses. Thank you very much. All right, I'll give a few more seconds before I ask for the official count. And as Justin reminded us, the threshold is 22 votes.
Which we have well exceeded with 28. And then we also have 5 total voice votes. We have Tim Noonan's vote yes, Anna Zahid, and the Perkles. And then we have 1 no vote.
Okay, great. 28. All right, can you please bring the candidate back into the room? And let me know when she's in here, because and if we could clear the vote count in the participant window also. Thank you.
The candidate is back in.
All right, great. Candidate Sutton, I want to congratulate you on earning the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Thank you so much for seeking out our endorsement, and I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of volunteers from our caucus.
Thank you so much, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Next candidate is Liz Berry for State House of Representatives, LD 36, position 2. Candidate Berry, are you online? I see that you're here.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Liz Berry. I'm running in the open seat for the State House of Representatives in the 36th Legislative District. So it's the heart of Queen Anne, Magnolia, Ballard, Inner Bay, Belltown, all the way up to Carkeek Park. And as you may recall, Gail Tarleton is running for Secretary of State, which go Gail, is vacating that seat. And it's an absolute honor to run this year. It's an 85% voting Democratic district. And so I believe we need to be electing progressive champions like me to this seat. And I'm really proud in our primary results. It was a three-way race. I received over 51% of the vote, over 9 points above my closest opponent, and 71% of the precinct. So we're feeling really strong going into the general election. And you should know that this kind of district really requires us to be electing progressive champions, people like me who stand for progressive tax. I am talking about an income tax, a corporate income tax, capital gains tax, a wealth tax, and I'm proudly doing that in this district. We need to be talking about rent control, healthcare for all, universal childcare, a Green New Deal, racial justice and police misconduct. I'm really proud that I was endorsed by The Stranger, The Urbanist, Seattle Subway, Pramila Jayapal, and also labor unions representing frontline workers who are fighting for us right now. My experience as a legislative director to a member of Congress during the last Great Recession prepares me well for the times that we're going to be facing with COVID budget crisis in Olympia next year. I also am a nonprofit executive director now. I know what it's like to balance budgets and make difficult decisions. And I'm the only candidate in this race who has said that cuts are unacceptable during this time. I also am a mom of 2 little kiddos. I will be one of the youngest legislators with little kids, and I think that that representation really matters. So thank you so much for your time today. Time up, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. I am looking for blue hands. The first one I see is Rob Dolan. If we can unmute Rob. Thank you, Rob. You have 15 seconds to ask your question for a 1-minute response. Take it away, Rob. So close.
Got kids in my own background, so apologies if you can't hear me. But Ms. Berry, can you talk about how you want to address gun violence?
Oh, yes, thank you for that question. So gun violence is really personal for me. I'm the former legislative director to Congresswoman Gabby Giffords in Washington, D.C. I served her for 4 years, and many of you know her story that she was shot by a gunman at a Congress on Your Corner event in 2011. And I hope you guys saw her at the convention this year. She was fantastic and really made me proud. I had 3 colleagues shot that day, and one of them, Gabe Zimmerman, died. This is my friend Gabe. I started with him on the first day in Gabby's office. This is something that I want to be a champion for in the legislature. I want to ban high-capacity magazines and semi-automatic weapons. I'm really proud that I've been endorsed by the Alliance for Gun Responsibility and Moms Demand Action, and you can guarantee that I will be a champion on this issue in the legislature.
All right, thank you very much for the question and response. The second blue hand I see is John Comerford. If we can have John's mic unmuted, go ahead, John.
Oh, my constituent. Hello, John.
Yeah, and first of all, I have to disclose I'm actively supporting your opponent. But number 2 is that you're a great candidate, and I really hope that that you will stay active if you win or don't win.
I will be winning.
But my question is this. You are running the Trial Lawyers Association, and their PAC has given money to some controversial candidates. What's your role with the PAC, and what action did you take when they gave money to Matt Shea over the last couple of election cycles?
Yeah, so there is a separate PAC that is affiliated with the organization of which I'm the executive director of. They are run by a 25-person board of members who make the decisions, and they are advised by our government affairs director. So I don't have anything to do with what the PAC's recommendations are and then how they're voted on. And but thank you for that question. It's been a question that I've been asked a couple times by some folks, but I do not support people who don't stand up for civil rights and basic rights. And also the other thing to note is the millions of dollars that PAC has given away to progressive causes and candidates over the years, including, De-Escalate Washington. I mean, Frank Chopp's on this call, his caucus and electing his members. So I don't have anything to do with the donations that my opponent has been talking about that I have had to do with. So thank you for the question, John.
Thank you. Last question goes to the Purples. Purples, if we can unmute their mic, you have 15 seconds to ask your question.
Okay, my question is, I hear that you say healthcare for all. That to me is unacceptable. I'd like to know where you stand on single payer healthcare. We have Hasagawa who submitted SB 5222, and we've got whole Washington. So I'd like to know where you stand on that.
I support, I'm an endorser of whole Washington. I believe in single payer. I think that we should get together all of the Western states who want to do single payer and form a pact so that we can do this before the feds, because they are not acting quickly enough. And it is an absolute travesty that we are in a global pandemic and people are being laid off their jobs and then are not having access to basic health care. And I want to go to Olympia and fix this.
And time. Perfect. All right, candidate Barry. Well, we're going to put you in our waiting room while we deliberate on this vote. Thank you very much. Justin, you had a hand up?
Yes, I want to make a motion enthusiastically that we endorse Liz Barry for 36th Legislative District Representative.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Let's see.
Second.
First, I think I saw Bunny, your hand up first. Are you seconding this motion?
Yes, I am. I'm seconding the motion.
All right, thank you. So now we'll move into debate. Justin, this was your motion. You have 30 seconds to speak in favor of it.
Well, I can tell you that having been a 36th Democrat for many years until I moved to the 37th, I can tell you that between the two candidates, I know that I can count on the progressive values that I have being represented more from Liz than any other candidate. The other candidate is very nice, but when it comes to the things that I'm most passionate about, and that has to do with Medicare for all, for example, there are tiptoes from other candidates, but I get I get full support on all my progressive ideals from Liz, and I fully support her.
Anytime. All right, great. Next up, John Comerford, I believe you're speaking against.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have
Great.
30 seconds starting now.
Okay, quickly. First of all, Justin, I think the world of. I have to oppose him on this one. Liz, I think is just as progressive, if not more so. Sarah Reineveld is more progressive, I believe. Look at where the money's coming from in her campaign. It's all coming from trial lawyers in $2,000 and $4,000 increments. For her to say she has no involvement with the PAC when she's the executive director who writes the checks is just wrong. I would think that if you really feel strongly about it, you would resign.
Good. Thanks, John. I even give you a little seconds after. All right, so we have 1 for, 1 against. Bunny, I see that your blue hand is up, but I'm not sure if that was from before or now. Are you speaking for? No, that's gone. All right. Rial, I see your blue hand is up. Are you speaking for?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just knowing Liz's history, the history she's done on criminal justice reform and with the Association for Justice, they've done great work, especially in de-escalate. When I was a part of that, they were a huge help to getting that passed. I think her opponent has been vehemently against criminal justice reform. She actually supported Dan Satterberg in the 36 LD endorsement meeting while he was still a Republican. So I think this is also not just supporting the more progressive candidate, but also pushing against Democrats that will swing either way with the wind blows.
All right, thank you. Do we have someone speaking against? All right, I'll ask a second time. Anyone speaking against? Third time, anyone speaking against? Rob, I see that you have your yes hand up. Are you speaking against? Nope, it's gone. All right, thank you. All right, debate is over. We are moving to the voting segment. Once again, vote yes, vote no, raise your hand if you're on the phone, and I will take the verbal votes from the Chaudhrys and the Purkles.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And Purkles?
I'm going to vote yes.
Me too.
2 yeses.
2 yeses. All right, thank you.
And then Keoki, we have a proxy. Karen Chase is holding the proxy for Maryland, so she now is a voice vote now.
Okay, Karen, can I get your verbal votes for both, please?
Yeah, can you hang tight just for a second?
Yes. And while we're waiting,
How you doing? Are you going to trip? She's not typing.
What is the threshold, Justin?
We're still at 22.
22. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, I just had to catch up on where we were. Yeah, we wrote 2 yeses.
2 yeses. Great. So we have a total of 6 verbal yeses.
20.
Do you have an official count for me?
I have 28 recorded, 29 recorded yeses, and 1 no.
All right, thank you very much. If we can clear the board.
That's 29 plus the voice votes.
Okay. Thank you for clearing the board. And is candidate Barry in the room?
It's returned.
All right. Candidate Barry, I want to congratulate you on earning the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Thank you very much for running in your race, and I appreciate you coming to us to get the progressive endorsement. Thank you. And once again, if you get your link to Justin, we can put it in the chat.
Thank you, everyone. I'm extremely honored for your support, and I promise to make you proud. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next candidate is John Stafford for State House of Representatives, 37th LD, position 1. Is candidate Stafford online and ready for his 2 minutes?
I am.
All right. We will start the timer as soon as you start speaking.
All right. Hello, my name is John Stafford. Thank you for having me today. I'm a candidate for state representative in the 37th Legislative District, position 1. I'm a high school teacher, former business consultant, highly involved in my community and with a very broad background. I'm a substantive candidate, highly informed candidate, and highly progressive candidate. I'll talk about 3 things during my opening comments. First is our era. We are confronted with 5 crises: the pandemic, the economic recession, the pending $8.8 billion budget crisis in Olympia, climate change, and racial justice, not to mention the national level threat to our democracy from the current administration. Importantly, it's key to understand that these are not just short-term problems to solve, rather they represent opportunities to restructure our society along progressive lines and along lines that protect our most vulnerable. So accordingly, I advocate for bold structural change, not just incremental reforms. What are my priorities? I have 4. First, we need to avoid austerity in the upcoming budget negotiations. That can be done by tapping into the rainy day fund, instituting a new tax, which I'll talk about in a moment, and hiring freezes. Those 3 things will enable us to avoid austerity like was implemented after the 2007-2009 Great Recession. I also support strongly new progressive taxation. I support the Frank Chopp 3-pronged proposal. Climate change needs to be front and center in the upcoming legislative session. And finally, the just demands for racial justice needs to be addressed. So those are my 4 priorities as a candidate. In order to address those, one needs a broad background, and I have one. I'm on the executive board of the 37th District Democrats, a 20-year resident, PCO. I'm involved with 3 climate change advocacy organizations. I write articles on public policy for the South Seattle Emerald. I'm a former consultant, a teacher. I have an educational background at Dartmouth, St. Martin's, and I just received a master's degree from the Harvard Extension School. So I believe I have the breadth of background to make significant contributions to affecting these major structural progressive reforms. Thank you for having me today.
Great, and that was time. Thank you. Q&A time. I'll take the first 4. I see Martha Koester has her blue hand up. If we can unmic Martha. Martha, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to know what your chances of winning are if Sharon Tomiko Santos got better than 77% on the primary.
Okay, so thank you for the question. Yeah, it's certainly an uphill challenge to take on an incumbent who's been in office for 22 years. There were 4 candidates in the race. I am pleased to make it out of the primary and into the general election. I do consider myself the more substantive candidate, candidly, and also the more progressive candidate. And I believe I'm, I've earned endorsements from organizations like 350 Seattle and others, and I'm developing sort of more and more support for my campaign, especially amongst people that are more informed. So I think I'm going to be able to make strong progress. As to whether it's enough to overcome that lead, we'll have to see.
All right, thank you. Next up is Amber King.
Hi, thank you. I would like to know what your positions are on whole Washington and a state bank.
Okay, so I very strongly support a single-payer healthcare system. Obviously, we have very high healthcare costs per capita, low coverage levels, low outcomes. So, and I think single-payer is by far the best model to pursue. There are two issues there. One is it would be better to pursue it at a national level than the state level. That's obviously not going to happen under the Trump administration, but it could under the Biden administration. If it doesn't happen at the national level, then I do support it at the state level. Second point that needs to be made about that is, as we pursue a single payer system, it's also important to concurrently, since that will take some time to implement, make sure we're doing everything we can to raise coverage levels under the ACA. And the Cascade Care program, of course, was very effective in that sense. I also support a state bank for a whole variety of reasons, not least of which hasn't been addressed yet, is it provides a good means of supporting Green New Deal conducive investments in transit and elsewhere. Also, it can be used to support student loans. So I strongly support both of those endeavors.
Thank you very much. So candidate Stafford, that was the last question I see. We're going to go ahead and move you into the waiting room while we deliberate on this vote.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Candidate is clear. Justin, are you, I'm entertaining a motion. I see Justin, you put your hand up.
Yes, I move that we endorse John Stafford. It's going to be a really hard race for him, but he's on two boards with me.
Well,
he's in my LD.
You can talk about him after. Do I have a second? Martha, is that your hand raising?
You didn't turn my hand off after the last hand raising.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion on the floor to endorse? Do we have a second? Sharon Abreu, you're seconding? Okay, great. All right. We have the second. Justin, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you that you get a lot of ethereal speeches from John, but the fact is John knows where we need to go. He can sound a little pragmatic because he's a heavy thinker, but on every issue where I line them up between our incumbent and him, he is the progressive choice, and I support him in under like 5 areas: state banking, progressive taxes, and Medicare.
All right, great. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? Sally Soriano, I see your hand is up. Are you speaking? Go ahead and unmic, and you're speaking against the motion?
Yes, as a former Seattle School Board member, I found Sharon Tomiko Santos to be on the front lines in terms of keeping public schools public. We're in a state with billionaires who are chomping at the bit to privatize all of our schools, and I think Sharon has held that line almost better than anyone else in the state legislature, and so I definitely support Sharon Tomiko Santos.
All right, thank you, Sally. Do we have anyone else speaking for the motion? Anyone else speaking for the motion?
Point of order.
Rial, are you speaking for?
No, it's point of order after the motion. Sorry.
Okay. All right, I don't see anyone else. Rial, you have your point of order?
Just for people to be clear, when you speak against a candidate, you're not speaking for somebody. So just, so I think if you keep your intentions clear, or your words clear on what this is a motion to speak for or against the Mr. Stafford. So for future reference.
Great, thank you. All right, this concludes the debate section. We are moving on to voting. Vote yes with the green button or the red button. Raise your hand if you're on the phone, and I will take, we have 3 verbal votes that I will be taking now. The Chaudhrys, the Perkles, and the Chases. Well, I don't see the Chases.
2 yes.
2 yeses, okay. Perkles?
I'm abstaining. I don't know him well enough.
We both are.
2 abstentions. Okay, great. I think Karen Chase has moved to the phone. Karen? Are you still holding the proxy for Maryland?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there's one abstention.
1 abstention. And what's the second vote?
I heard 1 yes, 1 abstention.
Okay, I'll go with that.
So in addition to the voice votes, we have 18 yeses and 9 nos.
And our threshold is still 22?
It is.
Okay. And all the votes are in?
Right. So out of those 6 voice votes, I think I heard 2, 3 abstentions. What were there any yeses among those?
3 yeses, 3 abstentions.
I think there were 3 yeses, 3 abstentions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let in the candidate, please, and clear the board, let in the candidate, and let me know that they're in here.
And he's back.
All right, candidate Stafford, unfortunately, you did not receive enough votes to pass the threshold. I want to thank you for seeking out the endorsement of the Progressive Caucus and to wish you the best of luck in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate is Claus Joens, State House of Representatives, 39th LD, position 1. Candidate Jones, are you ready for your 2-minute presentation?
Do we have a person speaking on their behalf?
I can speak on his behalf.
Klaus is here, and I've just unmuted him.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Klaus. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, everybody. I live in Marble Mount, Washington, which is 7 houses outside North Cascades National Park. So my internet is unstable. So I'm not turning on my video because if I do, I'll lose the connection. So
All right.
I apologize for that. I request permission to speak plainly. I'm Claus Joens. I'm a high school teacher and a former corporate finance person with Ford Motor Company for 20 years. I'm running for the 39th LD House Position 1. The 39th LD represents tough working families, and I'm a proud union member of the WEA. I support a state public bank, housing skilled trades apprenticeship, removing 4 dams from the Snake River, and creating a state EPA. The 39th LD has voted Republican for all 3 positions for the past 18 years. In the primary, we received 50,000 votes, which is an all-time high, but I've got 19,000 votes, which is the most a candidate's ever received in the primary, but it's only 39% of the vote. My opponent, Robert Sutherland, increased 5% in the primary over his last election, but the interesting thing is he didn't hit 32,000 votes like the other 2 candidates did, which is our magic number. My opponent is running on a platform of defunding public schools, shooting cops, and denying COVID-19. He has nothing on affordable housing, and he has nothing on healthcare. They're not anywhere in his platform. In my opinion, he's unfit for office and a threat to democracy. There's in his own hometown, Granite Falls, Michael Adams has started a group Change the Narrative. There's local school kids who've been threatened, and they've asked him to come out and meet with those kids or support the movement that just Black people and white people are equal, and he's declined. Frankly, I'm fed up with this guy. You do not get to wave a gun in the face of kids in my district. He knows I've had it with this crap, and he's running scared. He's the only candidate in the 39th who's not agreeing to appear in any of the forums or the debates. I'm going after this guy with everything that I've got. He is not a good person, and I'm trying to do everything I can to vote his pansy ass out in November. Thank you.
And time. Also a great statement to end on. All right, that is the 2 minutes. Thank you very much. This is now the Q&A time. I will be looking for the first 3 blue hands up here for questions. Once again, Deidre Hahn, if we can get you unmuted, you have the first question. Remember, it's 15 seconds to ask the question for a 1-minute response. Go ahead.
I heard you say that you would like to create a state EPA. And my question is, what do you have against the Department of Ecology, Department of Health, and the Department of Natural Resources?
Frankly, I don't have anything against any of them. But when you look at the wide responsibilities for the Department of Ecology, as a rule in an organization, when you get spread too thin, you get to a point where you don't do anything well. When you look at the Trump administration unwinding all these regulations, I would like to have a specific team of attorneys going after people right away for any changes they've made in relaxing their standards under the Trump administration. And you can fund the EPA from the court cases that you win.
All right. Next question goes to the Purples.
Oh, am I unmuted? Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
You're unmuted.
Okay, I understand where your opponent is standing, but I'd like to know where you stand on single payer healthcare.
My father died of lung cancer in 90 days because he was retired and could not afford the premiums. I have been for single payer healthcare for at least the last 4 years, and there's no excuse for us not having it. And we can't wait for the federal government. We need to start taking those steps now. And one of the things we need to look at doing is creating a single pool for all residents of the state next year because of the COVID increases to healthcare premiums.
All right. Thank you, candidate John. Seeing no other questions in the box, I'm going to have you put into our waiting room while we deliberate your vote. Thank you very much. Wait, Justin, was that a question?
No.
All right, great. I will entertain a motion. Justin, do you have a motion?
I do. I move that we endorse Ryan Johnson for the 39th Legislative District and turn that district around.
Oh, we're on Claus Joens now.
Claus Joens?
You said Ryan.
Oh, sorry. My brain is fried.
You're close.
So, Claus Joens. Thank you. All right.
I rescind that motion.
What's that?
I rescind that motion. I'm not making a motion now.
Oh, you're not making a motion. All right. John Comerford, your blue hand was up next. Are you making a motion?
Yes, I would make a motion to endorse this gentleman.
All right. Thank you. I need a second. Is there a second? I'll ask a second time.
I second, Rial.
All right. Rial has the second. I see. Okay, great. So, John, would you like to speak on your motion? Speak for your motion. You have 30 seconds.
Yes, it seemed like he hit all the right boxes. He got me on public banking. He was pretty clear on charter schools, was very clear on single payer. I don't think we could ask for much more in a conservative district like this than this candidate.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. Do we have anyone speaking against this motion? Anyone speaking against this motion? Third time, anyone speaking against this motion? All right. Debate is over. We are now moving to vote. Please vote according to the tech you have, and I will take verbal votes from the Chaudhrys and the Purples.
This is for what?
This is for candidate Claus Joens.
One abstain. Two abstain.
Two abstain. All right. Thank you. Purples.
I'm going to vote yes.
Yes.
Two yeses. All right.
And you're forgetting Karen and her proxy for Maryland.
It just popped up. Chases.
Thank you very much. This is Karen. You have
You just cut out.
2 yeses.
2 yeses. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes. 2 yeses. Yep. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. All right, and the threshold continues to be 22. I'll give a few more seconds before I ask for the official count. All right, Jessica, do we have an official count?
We have 31 yeses. That's 28 check marks, actually, plus 4 voice is 32. And then we have 1 no.
All right, thank you. Can we clear the board and bring the candidate back in? And let me know when he's in.
Coming now.
Awesome, thank you. Candidate Claus Joens, congratulations. You've earned the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Thank you for running in such a red district. We look forward to supporting you and good luck. All right, moving on. Next candidate, Ryan Johnson for State House of Representatives, 39th LD, position 2. Is candidate Johnson ready for the 2-minute presentation? I understand we have tech issues, so I'll give some time for that. And if candidate Johnson is not here, is there somebody to speak in? Ah, you're there.
I am.
All right, great. Nice to meet you. You have 2 minutes to give your presentation whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Johnson. I'm running in the 39th against Carolyn Estlick. And like many other candidates who have been in this meeting, I am running because our current representation is a disaster. I'm a truck driver. I'm a Teamster. I've been a Teamster since 2004, rank and file local 38, and I'm a Navy veteran. I like to turn Republican issues against them, and I like to speak to issues in ways that people connect with their own lives, not necessarily ways that issues are politically discussed. So I'm going to tell people why the gas tax will not build any roads. I'm going to tell people why our current healthcare system is going to collapse and we have to move to a single payer system. I'm going to tell people why our school security policies statewide are an absolute joke and need to be completely rewritten. I am going to tell people why that as a former Navy cop, we need to move to the Department of Defense rules for deadly force, both in combat and stateside in the United States for our civilian police. I am going to tell you that as a truck driver, I am tracked far better, and every truck driver in America is tracked far more than 90% of our police, and how we need to change these systems. I'm going to come up on time here. I thank you for your time. I'm open to questions, and I will yield the rest of my time.
All right, thank you very much. I will take the first 3 blue hands that come up. The first one I see is from Franklin Walbrown. We can go ahead and unmute you, Frank. You have 15 seconds to ask the question. Candidate Johnson, you will have a minute to respond. All right. I'm seeing that was a no. All right.
New Deal.
Leah Perkle.
Oh, where do you stand on climate and the Green New Deal? Would you support it?
I do support the Green New Deal. As somebody whose family owns 200 plus acres of coal land in Southern Illinois, it's worthless. It's never coming out of the ground. I've been a part of lots of alternative energy projects through my job. Exxon was just delisted from the Dow Jones Industrial this week. We're winning this. And fossil fuels are too expensive to come out of the ground. And we are going in the direction that everybody wants, no matter what. It's over for fossil fuels. We're winning. We are going to win in the future.
All right, great. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to ask that you be sent into the waiting room while we deliberate on the vote. Thank you, candidate Johnson. All right, I will entertain a motion from the floor. Geez, 2 hands up at the same time. I'll take the top one. Cheryl Hallinger, do you have a motion?
I do. I motion that we endorse Ryan Johnson.
All right, great. Amber, I see your blue thumbs up. Are you seconding?
I am.
All right, great. Cheryl, would you like to speak on your motion? You have 30 seconds.
Yes, Ryan is a breath of fresh air. We need him in the 39th. He is very progressive in all of his ideas, and he has really good follow through and reasons why. And he's very approachable. And I think he will be very effective in his campaign.
All right, great. Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? Second time, anyone speaking against? Last time, anyone speaking against? Seeing no, we're moving on to voting. Please vote accordingly. While we're getting those votes, I will ask for the verbal votes, starting with the Chases.
That would be 2 yeses.
2 yeses. Thank you very much. The Chaudhrys.
2 yeses.
2 yeses. And the Perkles.
2 yeses.
Thank you very much. All right, I will give a couple more seconds before I ask for the official count. Looks like threshold has not changed. We're still at 22. Jessica, do we have an official count of the vote?
We have, it looks unanimous. There's 29 yes recorded, plus all of our voice vote, and no no's.
Great, thank you very much. If we could clear the board, bring in the candidate, and let me know the candidate's in here.
Clearing the board. All right.
You sound like a pilot in a plane.
It's my flight attendant voice. And he's back.
All right, candidate Ryan Johnson, I want to congratulate you on earning the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Thank you very much. Thank you for answering the call, and thank you for answering those questions. Thank you very much. Good luck to you. And I believe we already have your link in the chat. I expect that you'll be getting a lot of people wanting to help you after this endorsement.
Outstanding. Thank you for your endorsement. I have a Zoom meeting every other Saturday. I would love to have you, whether you're in my district or not. So come grab a beer or 10 and come hang out with us.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. All right, next candidate up, Frank Chopp for State House of Representatives, 43rd LD, position 2. Is candidate Chopp in the Zoom and available for—
Point of order, we have 2 candidates for this race.
Yes, thank you, Justin. We have 2 candidates. We have Frank Chopp and we have Sherae Lascelles for House of Rep LD 43, position 2. First on the list is candidate Chopp. Is candidate Chopp here?
Yes, I'm right here.
All right. Thank you, candidate Chopp. You have 2 minutes for your presentation. Go ahead.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm State Representative Frank Chopp. We're facing many overlapping challenges before us. The pandemic, the economic recession, systemic racism, and the potential collapse of our childcare system, as well as the climate crisis. On top of that, we have a $9 billion deficit in the state budget. In response, I've organized a very bold package of progressive policies. My progressive revenue plan would raise $2 billion per year in progressive revenue to prevent austerity budget cuts and expand social services. I'm very proud of my plan for Social Security for childcare, which funds affordable childcare and pre-K for low and middle income families. It would make sure that childcare workers earn a living wage with health benefits. You know, Social Security is great for our old folks. Why not Social Security for our young kids? Other investments include social housing, apprenticeships at colleges, and direct cash relief for working families. You know, before I was a legislator, I was a community organizer, actually I still am, and a nonprofit leader. I saw firsthand how unjust our economic system is, how people are denied opportunity and pushed to the margins. In the legislature, I've tackled those inequities head on. I enacted free college and university tuition for all low-income students as an entitlement. Every year, that's 120,000 students, half of whom are students of color. and I paid for it with a tax on corporations, including Amazon and Microsoft. I brought a community organizers' energy and built a coalition to enact the best student aid program in the nation by far. Others talk about free tuition. I actually got it done. I also passed free single-payer health care for kids, Apple Health for all kids. I'm eager to work with you and others towards universal single-payer health care for all. And last year I passed the groundbreaking 100% Clean Electricity Act, taking decisive action to decarbonize our electricity. I'm running for re-election to bring a community organizer's
And
energy.
time.
That's the time.
That's the time. Thank you, candidate Chopp. Now, because we have two people in the race, we will have the second candidate, the other candidate, Sherae Lascelles. Candidate Lascelles, are you ready for your 2-minute presentation?
Absolutely. I didn't really prepare and time it, so hopefully I am under time. I want to thank you for having me here. It's actually a dream to go for a Washington State Progressive Caucus endorsement. I didn't think in my entire life that I would be in a position to do this, but I worked every chance I got to run for my community. And when they asked me to, wasn't sure if I was ready, but I said yes, and I made sure that I was ready. Not only by studying what Representative Chopp has done, but also by knowing what effects legislation or lack of legislation in our district have done to my life and the life of my friends and my community. Almost every candidate that I've heard on here and almost every forum I've been on has talked about the crises that we are experiencing right now when it comes to homelessness and the climate and racial equity, police violence. And they talk about it from a perspective of not experiencing it. But I can say, not only have I experienced all of those things, I've also been working every single day to mitigate those circumstances and reduce harm in my community for those situations. That will not change regardless of whether I win this general. It will not change without support from Washington State Progressive Caucus or anyone else, because it's integral to my survival. So you can bet with your endorsement as well as me winning the general that I will fight for this every single day in the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. For someone who did not time them, you got in under the time, which is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are now moving into the Q&A section. So I will be looking for blue hands raised up, and we will go back and forth. Let's see. Candidate Chopp got to speak first, so we'll start the questions with candidate Lascelles. This is going to be tricky because some people might have different questions, but I'm just going to, for different candidates, but this is how we're going to go. Martha, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I was just wondering why you are not running as a Democrat, given that the People's Party does not have any kind of voter ID base or a commitment to voter contact.
That is a great question. And a lot of people rose this question when I decided I was going to run, saying, if you went as a Democrat, you may have access to more resources. And I asked also at what cost. But I also am very aware from my previous experience in campaign management that if you are not the incumbent in the Democratic Party, you do not have access to these extremely expensive resources. And as I was primarying an incumbent of 25 plus years since I was 8 years old, I would rather create my own list and work with my community that I've been working with for a long time on building that list and expanding our relationships than essentially vie for a seat that's already been told it belongs to someone else.
All right, thank you. Next up, Rial Johnson.
Question for, who am I allowed to ask a question to? Just for
Frank
either?
Chopp.
We're going to go to Frank. Yeah, we're just going to go back and forth.
All right, sorry. First, I guess question is, who is this new woke Frank Chopp? You have a lot of progressive policies on your platform now, but you've been in the legislature for about 25 years. I've had to do at least 5 initiatives in the last 4 years because of things that would not get passed through the House under your leadership. So can you explain why so many progressive things that we keep fighting for now have not been able to go, have been dead in your desk for 25 years?
All right.
Well, actually, we've passed a major set of progressive policies, ranging from free healthcare to all the kids in the state, to paid family and medical leave, to the Cascade Care, and many other progressive policies, including that free college and university tuition for all low-income students, with a very progressive funding source that taxes Amazon and Microsoft. Just give me a list of, if you want, you can call me at 206-612-7071 if you want to discuss any of that. Part of the difficulty is that we have to keep Democratic majorities in the legislature in order to pass progressive policies. 7 out of the previous 9 years, the Republicans controlled the state Senate. The last 2 years, we enacted the most progressive set of progressive policies in decades in the state, and many people have called the Washington State Legislature now the most progressive in the entire nation. So I could go on forever, but I know I have a limit here.
All right, thank you. Next up is Amber King.
Certainly. So this would go to Sherae?
Yes.
Okay. I would love to ask both of you, but I wanted to find out your familiarity with whole Washington, knowing that we have about an $8 billion deficit right now for the state, and projections for whole Washington would save $9 billion in its first year. I would love to know what your position is on that.
I'm all in. I'm all in for whole Washington. And I actually have been since last summer, right after I ran for the District 4 City Council position, interim vacancy. I was actually asked by whole Washington while I was a CM on another city council member's campaign if I would also endorse from my great showing, and from that being one of my talking points. And it could have potentially saved and changed the trajectory of my life had I had access to healthcare earlier in my life. So I've been all in for quite a while, and I've endorsed it before I even was a candidate, and I did it again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, I see John Comerford. This is for candidate Chopp.
Unfortunately, my question was for candidate Lascelles.
All right, let me hold on to that, and we'll see if we get another question. We'll come back to you for Lascelles. Let's see, next up, Troy Hewitt. Do you have a question for candidate Chopp?
There we go. I do. Thank you. Representative Chopp, I'm looking at your commitment to returning donations that you receive from various law enforcement entities to the tune of $13,700 you committed. I've seen some stuff that you did in June. What have you done since?
Good question. That $13,000 was donations over more than 10 years. I think it was maybe 12 years. I made a commitment to pay it all back, and I'm paying it back out of my own pocket because you cannot use campaign cash to do that under the state campaign financing laws. So just yesterday, actually, I sent in another check to Bird Bar Place, which is a great African-American led organization, nonprofit, and worked with them for years in terms of the central area and in terms of housing projects and social services. So I contributed another $500 yesterday, and I've committed, and I will actually pay $500 a month until I get to the $13,000 goal. I feel very strongly about that, but I'm paying it out of my own pocket because I believe it so strongly.
All right, thank you. Going back to John Comerford, you have a question for candidate Lascelles?
My question is, were you to be elected, would you be caucusing with the Democrats, and would you be a vote for progressive values in the Democratic caucus?
That's a great question. From my recollection of the last time I was in Olympia, there wasn't a People's Party caucus. So yes, absolutely. I share almost every Democratic value there is, but I also go a little bit further in the work that I have done on the ground, and the work that I have done in policy, and the work that I strive to do because of my lived experience. I could say yes to progressive values in every single way, and then some.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I do not see any other hands up that have not already been up. So this concludes the, let's see. Troy, is your hand up for question to candidate Lascelles, or?
No, I mean.
Great. All right, so moving on, debate or discussion Q&A section is over. I would love to have our candidates be moved into the waiting room while we deliberate. Oh, okay. Are the candidates gone? Because the number does not match up. What are our candidates in the waiting room?
Well, they were. I'm sorry, I'm having tech issues.
Oh, nope, I get that.
I'll try it one more time here.
All right, while we're doing that, I'm just gonna say I'm entertaining motions. Once we confirm that the guests are in the waiting room, I can.
There we go.
We're good?
Yep.
All right, great. First hand I saw up was Andrew's. Andrew, are you making a motion?
I am making a motion. I move to endorse Lascelles.
All right, there's a motion to endorse Lascelles. Troy, I see your blue hand up and I see your thumb. I'm assuming you are seconding that motion.
Yes, sir.
Great. Andy, would you like to speak to your motion?
I
We're clear.
would.
We're just doing Lascelles now. We will move to endorse the other candidate after we complete this. Go.
Okay, hearing one candidate lauding and having previously and currently endorsing Whole Washington, and the other candidates calling Cascade Care progressive, which was a handout to the insurance companies. That's a deal breaker for me. If there's confusion on that, I gotta go with the Whole Washington candidate.
Okay, time's up. Great line to end it on. All right, so that's one person speaking for the motion. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? And Rial, I see your hand. Go ahead, Rial.
No, I'm not speaking against. No.
Oh, okay.
I guess Sherae was speaking against the. We'll wait. I'll have to wait for the other candidate.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. I don't see anyone speaking against. Once again, anyone speaking against? Third time, anyone speaking against?
I think two's good, Keoki. We're running late.
All right. Yeah. All right. Moving on to voting. Please place your votes while I ask for the verbal votes from the Chases.
Yeses.
2 yeses. Thank you. Chaudhry's.
2 yes.
Thank you. Perkles.
There we go. 2 yeses.
2 yeses. Great. Once again, well, we know the motion. The motion is for candidate Lascelles. All right. Thank you. I'll wait a few moments. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is the threshold, Justin?
Let me just double check that real quick. Let's make sure we're golden.
Yeah.
Is it matching 45? No, okay, we're still at 22.
Still 22. Thank you very much. Jessica, can I get official count?
Official count is 28 recorded, plus 6 voice yeses, and 2 no's.
Okay, so the total number of yeses was 28, you said?
28 plus the voices, so it's 32.
34.
34.
Okay, thank you very much. We've recorded that. Candidate Lascelles does get an endorsement. If we can clear the board, I will entertain another motion. All right, Rob Dolan, can you state your motion, please? Oh, Rob's gone. I do not see that. All right, second chance for a motion.
Rob Dolan is here.
He is, but I think he took off his blue hand. I think he
Okay.
unraised his hand.
Gotcha.
All right, third time asking for a motion, seeing none. Thank you very much. We can let both the candidates in.
All right, here they come.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Candidate Shirley Lascelles, I wanted to congratulate you on earning the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Thank you very much. Candidate Frank Chopp, you did not receive the number of votes needed for endorsement, but I thank you for coming to the Washington State Progressive Caucus and completing our questionnaire. And I wish you good luck. Good luck to both candidates.
Thank you. Is there anything you need from me so I can go like celebrate and tell everyone and breathe and make sure I process that this is real?
Yeah, celebrate and process. If you haven't already given the link to your webpage to Justin, please do that. And
Just send everything over to contact@waprogressives.org. And if you can do that quick, I'll get you out on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, moving on. We have Hillary Madsen for King County Superior Court Judge, position 13. Is candidate Madsen ready?
I'm here. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and your 2
Great.
minutes start when you're ready.
Great. I'm Hillary Madsen, and I'm running for King County Superior Court, position number 13. As a lawyer, I've had the opportunity to present cases to trial, in bench trials and jury trials, in civil matters and in criminal matters. The King County Superior Court has 7 judicial departments. I've appeared in 6 of those departments. However, my jury trial and my bench trial experience is not the reason, or it's not the only reason that I'm running. When there are people in the streets chanting no justice, no peace, that is a powerful statement about the lack of confidence our community has in our legal system. It's a lack of confidence caused by structural, institutional, and individual acts of racism. We can do better. I became a lawyer after working with teens experiencing homelessness in the University District. For 3 years, I saw about 20 teens a night. So for hundreds of teens over the course of 3 years, I saw who had nowhere else to go. And what these teens taught me was that sometimes our systems and institutions work together to limit rather than expand opportunity. I have focused my legal career on people who can't pay for lawyers, children and youth, immigrants, and people who are incarcerated in our jails and in our prisons. Some of the constitutional arguments that I've been proud to make include strengthening our juvenile record sealing laws so youth get a second chance, investigating abuse against immigrant detainees at the Northwest Justice Center, and suing King County for holding children and youth in solitary confinement. My endorsements include 13 sole endorsements from the King County legislative districts, the sole endorsement of the KCDCC.
And time.
Thank you very much.
All right, no, thank you. And this is the Q&A time. I will take the first 3. It looks like we have a question from Franklin Walbrown. If we can unmute Frank. Frank, you have 15 seconds to ask your question. Candidate Madsen, you will have a minute to respond.
Thank you very much.
That was actually a clap.
All right. That's fine. Okay, we have a bunch. Let's see. I will take, the first one I saw was from the Chaudhrys. If we can unmute Ann and Zahid Chaudhry, you have the first question.
Thank you. Hillary Madsen, how would you like to explain and tell us how have you worked with the abuse of immigrants at the Northwest Detention Center? Thank you, Hillary.
Yes, absolutely. So I was a staff attorney at Columbia Legal Services, and one of the things I focused on was the abuse that was happening against immigrant detainees at the Northwest Detention Center. And so I would go to the Northwest Detention Center multiple times a month to go sit in the waiting room to get processed, and then to talk to immigrants who were detained there about what they were experiencing. And what I saw was a denial of basic health care, what I saw was the use of inappropriate discipline, such as using pepper spray in a confined cell. And what I also saw was the deprivation of personal property. And so I saw folks who were in ICE, folks who were employees of GEO, deliberately confiscating and destroying the personal property of immigrant detainees. And so I am proud of the work that I did in advocating for folks who were detained there, and also today continuing to work with immigrants.
And time. Thank you. Next question is from the Perkles. If we can unmute the Perkles, go ahead.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Mia Steve's question is, where do you stand on qualified immunity?
It's a great question. So, and I have to be delicate in the way that I answer this question because, of course, judges aren't allowed to tell you how they would rule in cases. But the problem with qualified immunity that I can tell you just from a community perspective is that certain people, for example, law enforcement officers and judges, are allowed to behave in ways that as a society we shouldn't find acceptable. And they're allowed to behave in those ways because they have immunity. And so there are attempts being made in the legislature now to change the way we treat immunity and who qualifies for immunity and what the exceptions will be built into the law. One of the things that I think we can do as judges is identify systems gaps, and we can identify inequitable outcomes that are caused by state law, and we can use our influence as judges with the legislature to point out those inequities.
All right, perfect. It looks like we have the final question from Nicolette Oliver. If we can unmute Nicolette. Nicolette, you have 15 seconds to ask your question.
Hello, on your questionnaire, it says that you've served as a precinct committee officer or other representative for a Democratic organization. I was wondering if you could expand upon that for us.
Sure. So folks may or may not know, I was the chair of the 43rd Legislative District. I was the chair for, I think, 2 consecutive terms during the primary in which Barack Obama, his first primary. So those were some fun caucuses folks might remember to try to organize. I also had positions beyond chair. I was the KCDCC representative. I was a chair, representative to the Washington State Democratic Central Committee, the WSPC. And then I've also held positions in the King County Young Democrats, or not the King County Young Democrats, but the Washington State Young Democrats when I was in college. I've never been a PCO, but my husband, Rob Dolan, has been a PCO multiple times. And my favorite experience with him being a PCO was when we lived in the 36th district and Ruth's Chris Steakhouse was in his precinct to walk, which was pretty fun.
All right, that was the last question. We will briefly put you in our waiting room while we deliberate on this vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I will entertain a motion. Rial, I saw your hand up.
I'd like to motion that we endorse Hillary Madsen for.
And Justin seconds that.
All right, Justin seconds, great. So we can move on. Rial, would you like to speak for your motion? You have 30 seconds.
Yes, I think we need, like I said earlier, we need more Hillary Madsens to be challenging the system the way the judges are. Her opponent is endorsed and brags about being endorsed by 75 other judges. To me, that's a red flag. Just on that alone, because it's about judges. A lot of judges that are in office want to keep the system the way it is. I am in constant battle with sentencing on the way these judges are sentencing youth and other people for just frivolous and arbitrary sentences, disproportionately, especially for people of color. We need change. I've heard enough. I think she is a change. She's a good enough change for me. Regardless, is we need more people to be challenging the system like Hillary is doing right now. So I commend her for running, and I think we need to support her.
All right, great. Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking against? Anyone speaking against? John Comerford, you have 30 seconds to speak.
No, I'm speaking in favor. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, no problem. So it looks like we don't have anyone speaking against the candidate. So I am moving us to voting. Please vote the way you're supposed to. And I will call for the verbal votes. Let me change it up. I'll start with the purples. I'll start with the chases.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have two very enthusiastic yes votes from the chases.
Thank you very much.
2 yeses from Chowdhury's for Hillary.
Thank you. Thank you, Chowdhury's and Purples.
Yes.
Yes, 2 yeses.
All right, thank you very much. Now I am doing it. All right. Jessica, can we get the official count?
We have 29 yeses recorded, plus 6 voice votes, and no votes.
All right, great. If we can clear the board, bring in the candidate and let me know when the candidate gets in.
She is back.
Great. Candidate Hillary Madsen, congratulations. You have earned the unanimous endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus.
Well, thank you so much. I do have to clarify, I just remembered, for the record, Rob was not the PCO to Ruth's Chris, he was the PCO to El Gaucho, which for anyone who eats steak, which is not me, it might make a difference.
Point of personal privilege, could we have her son clarify what's the correct story?
Well, Levi wasn't born yet, so
All right.
can't call him.
Well, thank you very much, candidate Madsen. Good luck in your race, and
Thank you.
It looks like you will be getting a lot of support from your fellow progressives.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next candidate. Let's see. All right, we finished Hillary Madsen. Moving on to the next candidates. Let's see. Oh, I see something in the chat. Hold on. Oh, Hillary's back. All right. Going back to my candidate list. Let's see. Next up, Jesse James for Clark County Council, District 3. Is candidate James ready for the 2-minute? There you are. All right. I can't see my timekeeper, but I will keep count. You have 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse James, and I'm running for Clark County Council in District 3. This race is a rather important one. Right now, our county chair has created quite a bit of controversy by denying systemic racism in our county. And it turns out that my opponent, a good friend of hers and the wife of the Republican Party chair, also could not answer whether or not she believes systemic racism exists in our county during our interview with the local newspaper. Of course, systemic racism does exist. And I'm very concerned that if my opponent wins, that we will have deniers of racism on our council, and we cannot have that. I'm running on a platform of climate change, police reform, and affordable housing. Right now, I think that police reform is very important as we see the events unfold throughout the country and in our respective communities. I support a system of crisis intervention team similar to the one that is in place in Eugene, Oregon, because it's better to help people rather than to arrest them whenever possible. This has saved the city of Eugene over $8.5 million year after year. Our county could use some savings in the money, especially during this pandemic. And of course, our citizens would be better served by getting the help that they need rather than being arrested. This also helps the police officers. They don't have to respond to as many calls. Police officers respond the crisis team in Eugene responds to up to 20% of all 911 calls, meaning those police officers don't have to go to those calls. I'm kind of going fast. You can ask me.
Time.
Ah!
All right. Thank you very much. You packed a lot of stuff in there. I am moving to question Q&A. I will take the first 3 blue hands that are up. I see one from the Perkles. We can have the Perkles unmuted. You have 15 seconds to ask your question. 1 minute, Jesse James, to respond.
I'd like you to explain how you would support the Green New Deal in our county.
Sure. There's a few things that we can do. First of all, we got to keep urban growth boundaries in place as much as possible. Protecting our farmlands, our forests, our waters, all of that. That's very important. But other things we can do is in building codes, we need to electrify our county and get off of fossil fuels. There's no codes right now that says that new construction has to be 100% electric. We need to get there. It would also be nice if, while we build apartment buildings, if we could make sure that parking lots within those buildings, apartment buildings, have electrified parking lots so people can buy an electric car if they live in an apartment. Right now, you can't charge one if you're there. So those are a few of the things that I think are important that we can do. I'd also like to increase local farming, find ways to get farmers to farm again so we can move food to market on a much shorter route, which would...
and time. All right. Second question, John Comerford, if we can unmute John. John, you will have 15 seconds.
Hi, can you hear me now? Okay. I don't know how much you know about public banking, but at the moment we're looking and we're moving towards a cooperative bank for the state. Counties, cities, and so forth will be members. As a Clark County Commissioner, would you be supportive of Clark County joining the public bank?
I would, and I've read up a little bit on Bob Hasagawa's bill. I support that, and I think community banking would be very important. I really hate to see our money go to Wall Street. Wall Street has not been the friend of Americans in any community, as far as I'm concerned. And community banking would help keep that money here, help our people. So yes, I would support that.
All right. Thank you very much. I am not seeing any other questions in the participant box, so I will ask that candidate Jesse James be moved into the waiting room while we deliberate the vote. All right. Do I have, I'm entertaining motions.
Sorry?
Cedar.
Okay.
Cedar, do you have a motion?
I mean, yeah, but if someone actually could speak to him, that might be better.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Next up, the Perkles were next. Perkles, do you have a motion you'd like to put up there that you would speak to?
I motion to endorse Jesse.
All right, great. Do we have, I'm assuming, Cedar, that you're seconding. That's great. We can move this along. Perkles, can you speak to your motion, please?
Huh? Okay, so I moved to endorse Jesse because yes, he strongly supports Medicare for all. I'm not Medicare for all, single Green New Deal, and he's actually been standing up with the community against the systemic racism in our district. He's actually been going to the events and standing with them, not going there as a politician, but standing there and supporting them. And we, as a human being, and again, we really need a Green New Deal in Clark County, and he's the only one we have that's standing up for it. There's no other candidates right now that are doing that. And his opponent is horrible.
Okay, all right. I'm looking for anyone speaking against. Anyone speaking against? Anyone speaking against? Seeing none, moving to vote. Please vote, and I'm just going to ask the verbal groups, Chase, Chaudhry, Perkles, go ahead and tell me what you vote.
Yes.
2 yeses, great.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Chaudhry, and yes, Chase.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
So that's 6 voice yeses and 24 checkmark yeses and no nos.
All right, so that's 30.
Oh, 25 plus 6 is 31 now. 31 yeses, no nos.
All right. And I just want to confirm the threshold because it looks like we lost a couple people.
I just recounted it. We're good. We still need 32. I'm 22.
All right, great. Motion passes. We are endorsing Jesse James. I just like saying the name Jesse James. Can we clear the board? Invite the candidate back in and let me know when the candidate's in.
He's returned.
All right, candidate Jesse James, I'm happy to announce that you have earned the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Congratulations and thank you for your work down south. I look forward to helping you win your race.
Oh, well, fantastic. Thank you Thank you very much, everybody. And I thank you for the endorsement. I'm really happy to receive this.
Oh, all right, congratulations. Thank you. All right, moving on. To our next candidate. Let's see. Steve,
I got a hand up there for a second.
You do? Is there? Hold on a second.
I motion to suspend the rules.
All right. Your motion to suspend the rules.
And the motion to suspend the rules is for?
The motion to suspend the rules to allow Thomas Hernandez to be endorsed by the Washington State Progressive Caucus.
All right, do we have a second?
To clarify, you want not to endorse, you want to suspend the rules to have him heard today.
Yes, I want to suspend the rules to have him heard today. Yes.
Second.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard a second. Can you speak to your motion, Purples?
We have been working with, we actually encouraged Thomas to run for this position, and he is the only Democrat in that race. And he also he did go ahead and fill out the endorsement paperwork. And I believe that he is the future of our Democratic Party, and he's a strong progressive, and we really need to have somebody like him in that very red area.
He's running against 5 Republicans.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you restate what he's running, what race he's in?
He is running for, go ahead, Steve.
Clark County Charter Review Board.
Which district?
District 4, position 1, I believe.
Position 1. Okay. All right. Great. Do we have anyone speaking against this motion? I just want to click. Okay. No one going once. Anyone speaking against? Going twice. Anyone speaking against? 3 times. All right. Time to vote.
Clarify, this is not to endorse. This is to suspend the rules to add him to the charter review, which we limited to 1 minute per and 2 questions per each.
Correct. Yes. Cedar, you have a hand up. Did you have a question? I think you're muted. I can't hear you. Okay, still can't hear you. All right, while we're hoping to fix the audio, Karen Chase, I see that you have a blue hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. I would like to consider Thomas for endorsement tonight. Why can't we move to suspend the rules to hear from him and consider his endorsement?
No, yeah, we are. We're moving to we're gonna add him to the list.
Okay.
If he gets the votes, then yeah, we'll go through the process. Thanks for clarification, though. Okay, Cedar, I'm gonna check in with you. Do we have your audio? Still can't hear you. Oh, chat. Oh, I'm so... Cedar, did we receive an endorsement questionnaire? Good question. The questionnaire for Thomas Hernandez, since we didn't have it before, it appears to be in the Google Drive. So it looks like we did. All
yeah,
right.
make sure you can open it.
Yeah. So it is there. Ooh. We are voting now. We are voting for the motion to consider Thomas Hernandez.
This is to suspend the rules to put him into the endorsement. We would need 2/3, which is 24 people.
24 votes, yeah. Oh, Roberts. Okay. I'm going to ask for the verbal votes from Karen Chase and Marilyn Chase. And the Perkles and the Chaudhrys. Once again, can I get the verbal votes from the Chases, the Chaudhrys, and the Perkles? I'm assuming they're yeses.
Chases vote. Yeah, the Chases vote yes on the motion to suspend the rules.
Thank you.
The Perkles vote yes.
And the Perkles vote yes to suspend the rules.
All right, Keoki, so it looks like you've got it. We've got 25 on the yes, and you've got all these voice votes. So it looks like we've suspended the rule.
Yes on the voice.
Thank you, Chaudhrys. All right, great. Motion passes. So we're suspending the rules. Justin, help me out. What's the next step?
So now we have 4 candidates for charter review. We did have 3. And they would each get a minute to talk about their campaigns. We want to hear, I'd like to hear from all 4 of them. And then people can raise their hands and ask, they can each get 2 questions, but I think we should just let people raise their hands and ask from whenever they want to ask.
And to be clear, it's, how much time are we giving them to speak? Is it
1 minute per?
1 minute per. All right, great. So first person up on my agenda is Steve Perkle for Clark County Charter Review District 1, Position 2. Steve, are you ready for your 1 minute presentation?
Yes, I am.
All right. I'm looking at my time counter and go ahead and start when you're ready.
Well, I'll make this quick. The biggest problem we have right now is ethics review with our Clark County Charter because, as Jesse pointed out, our chair said there's no systemic racism in Clark County. And they brought her up on ethics charges, and they decided not to proceed with the ethics charge for 6 months so they could look into it. Of course, the people who decided to not do that are the Clark County commissioners. And when they do it, it is 2 commissioners that they select, and then they get to select a citizen. The Clark County commissioners who are doing the review on one of the Clark County commissioners get to do that. We need to rewrite that and make it so that, I don't know how we'll figure it out, but we know it can be figured out so that it's an outside people do that instead of the commissioners
and
ruling
time
themselves. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, next person. So we're going to get through all the speakings. Next up, Chris Goodwin. Once again, Charter Review Commission, District 1, Position 3. Are you ready, candidate Goodwin?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you have 1 minute. Okay. Go ahead and start.
All right, well, this is my first campaign. I have solid experience and education for doing this type of work. I'm a public health professional, formerly a medic and a Marine, and I've centered my career on service, science, and community engagement. I was also a local delegate for Bernie Sanders in 2016 and a state delegate this year. I'm basing my campaign around the values of transparency, inclusion, and accountability, and these will guide my work on the commission. Through work in community partnerships and social and health service organizations and being involved in equity, diversity, and inclusion work, I've seen areas where inclusive and representative governance is lacking. I've also acknowledged that disparities in systemic racism are evident in our community and government, despite our council chair's denial that it exists. As Steve mentioned, a key element of this accountability is oversight, especially when it comes to ethics. I've recently endorsed Whole Washington. I've been recognized by Fair Vote Washington as a ranked choice voting champion. These efforts reflect my drive to ensure that the power of governance is ultimately in the hands of the public, that their lives and well-being are more important than profits, and that authentic democracy is preserved and pursued in the face of the aggressive efforts to dismantle or manipulate it. Thank you.
Time. Thank you very much. Next candidate, John Latta, District 4, Position 2. Candidate Latta, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right,
Hello.
Go ahead and start.
Thanks for inviting me. My name is John Latta. I'm running for Charter Review position in Clark County District 4. I'm a veteran, retired professional engineer, and a current PCO, and I'm secretary for the 18th LD Democrats. Yes, I'm a Democrat. I'm a member of Clark County League of Women Voters and retired Public Employees Council. I'm a past chair of the 8th Legislative District Democrats in Washington and a past state committeeman for Benton County. I'm running for charter review because I like that Clark County's charter title includes the words by and for the people. It means all people. I want to keep it that way by opposing any proposed changes that reduce the opportunity for citizen participation in our local government. And if possible, we should enhance that. That's my goal, and I would appreciate your endorsement. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, candidate Goodwin. Lada. Next up is candidate Hernandez. Are you ready for your 1-minute presentation? Thomas. All right, go ahead and get you unmuted, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
All right, so my name's Thomas Hernandez. I'm running for Clark County Charter Review, District 4, Position 1. It's mainly a Republican area, but I'm running against technically 5 other Republican candidates, so I should be easy. But anyway, I am currently a college student at Clark College, and during the 2020 Democratic primary, I was a Bernie Sanders delegate, national delegate, in fact. And honestly, like, the only reason why is because like corruption. This is like one of the reasons why I'm running. It motivates me to run for office just because corruption is in government, unfortunately. I will fight to end the corruption in Clark County government by preventing county officials from taking or being influenced by corporations, developers, etc.
All right, great, thank you. To keep things streamlined, during the Q&A section, I'm just gonna tell you which candidate the Q&As are for, so you can go on there. So we'll start with Perkle, then Goodwin, then Lada, then Hernandez. All right, so the first 3 questions are for Perkle. If you have a question.
That would be 2 questions, big member.
Sorry, you're right, 2 questions. First 2 questions for candidate Perkle. Second go round, 2 questions for candidate Perkle.
I'd like to ask him a question.
Go ahead.
I'm really excited about the 7 counties that have actually gone to the trouble to initiate home rule. So I know that one of the reasons why people do this is they want to look at the charter and change it. So what do you see as the biggest thing in the current charter that you want to change?
Well, there's a couple things. There's the ethics reform has to be done because they're taking so much money from developers and they're buying votes. We can't have that. Votes are not up for sale. So we have to really strengthen the ethics. And then ranked choice voting, because this whole thing is silly that we have 3 different positions that are running. With ranked choice voting, if we just had, say, District 1 and the top 3 candidates, everybody votes for their top 3 or whatever, with ranked choice voting, we'd get the best 3 candidates instead of the best person in this pool, the best person in this pool, and the best person in this pool. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way it's set up right now. So we need to change that.
All right, thank you. Next set, these are the next 2 questions are for candidate Goodwin. Questions for candidate Goodwin.
Oh my God, Steve, this is getting...
Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right. Next up, questions. 2 questions for candidate Lada. 2 questions for candidate Lada. Asking for a 3rd time, 2 questions for candidate.
Justin here. I'd like to ask John what his 2 biggest priorities, if he was to change something in the charter, in Clark County's charter, what would it be?
Well, thank you, Justin. I really came into this without an agenda to change anything, but I know that there are going to be some proposed changes. I figure there's going to be some Republicans that want to go back and take away our charter, you know, because it's brand new. And I just want to listen to ideas, and I want to oppose anything that's going to take away participation by the people. That's my agenda.
All right. Thank you, candidate Lada. The last set of questions is for candidate Thomas Hernandez. Do I have 2 questions? Cedar, go ahead. Oh, maybe you should put it in the chat because you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, groovy.
But you got to yell.
Point of information, are any of these people running against each other, or are they all for different positions?
Justin, the question is, are they running against each other? I'm looking and I do not believe that
None of them are running against each other. They're all running for different slots. It's a 15-member board. There's some at large and by district. They're all running by district.
Great, thank you.
All right. Okay. Once again, any questions for Thomas Hernandez? Seeing none, I would like to put these candidates in the waiting room while we vote.
We can't vote on something if we don't have any motions. So
Right, we're going to put them in there, then we'll make the motions, then we'll vote. You're right.
You have a point of order from Mr. McGee.
Yes, Andrew, go ahead.
And by the way, Thomas should not be put in the waiting room because Thomas and Steve should stay here because they're members.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead, Andrew.
Not a point of order. I was ready to make a motion if you're ready to entertain.
I am totally ready to entertain. I just want to make sure that we get our members back in, Steve and
yeah, they're here. They're here. We're good.
Great. So go ahead. Let's hear your motion, Andrew.
Motion to endorse all four as a slate.
All right. Do I have a second? I saw Ann and Zahed's hand go up. I'm assuming you're seconding, Chaudhry's?
Yes, correct.
All right, great. Thank you. So, Andrew, can you speak to your motion? And thank you.
Okay, so Clark County, not quite the shining blue light we'd like it to be. We gotta get, this is for making the rules. We gotta get the right rules for the people. Otherwise, it's just going to be whoever's got the biggest checkbook gets to control the conversation.
Thank you. All right. Anybody speaking against the motion for slates? Anyone speaking against the motion? Perkles, are you speaking against? Can we unmute the Perkles?
I'm speaking against because I don't feel John Latta is a progressive, and I don't think he didn't really say he would do anything as far as looking at the charter, putting forth looking at the ethics rules on the charter review. I didn't really like his answers.
Okay. All right, thank you. Bunny, are you speaking for or against?
I was also speaking against because
okay. That's all. We can't, I mean, we'd have to do it before, you know, all that. Okay, so just so people remember, this is just a vote for a slate, and we'll vote yes or no. If it's no, then we will vote individually. All right.
No, you will entertain more motions.
Right, we'll entertain, you know the deal. All right. We have another hand. Unless you're speaking for, I'm not going to be able to entertain your thing, Purples.
And Leah and Steve, you both have a vote. So he'll call you for voice vote.
Yeah. All right. So this is the time to remember you are voting on whether or not to vote for all of them as a slate. And I will take the verbal votes from the Chases, the Chaudhrys, and the Purples. Whenever people are ready.
The Chases vote no on the slate.
Thank you.
The Perkles vote no on the slate.
Okay, Purkles no, and the Chaudhrys no. Thank you.
Chases no also.
Chases no. Thank you.
So, Keoki, at this present time, I think you've got your count. With those, you have 21 plus 6, so you have 27 no's and 6 yeses. So I believe that motion would have failed.
All right. Yep, I'll call it. Motion fails. I will now entertain further motions if we can clear the board. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Now is the time. If you want to entertain, I see Justin. Okay, what do you have, Justin?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to endorse as a slate Thomas Hernandez, Steve Perkle, and Chris Goodwin.
All right, motion to vote on a slate of Thomas Hernandez, Goodwin, and Perkle. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, we have a second. All right, Justin, can you speak on your motion, please?
Well, first of all, I started talking to most of these candidates about why they were running for charter review because it was how I was learning about it. And I got very enthused because in the 7 counties, they can rework them. And they got home rule because of the fact that they had this commission that was always overrun by Republicans. And I've heard definite plans in the questionnaires, also in the one I just got from Thomas Hernandez, about they want to get in there and mess with it. They have 1 year every 5 years to do that. And I hear them with a plan. I don't hear John Latta with any plan other than he just wants to do it. So I think these guys are ready to get to work.
Okay, great. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion for a slate with these 3 candidates? Anyone speaking against that motion? Perkles, I see your hands up. Are you speaking against?
She's waving her hands no because she doesn't realize you can't see her.
Okay.
I can't get the blue. I can't get the blue hand off. So no, I'm not.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any against. One more time, any against? All right, we are now in the voting stage.
Before you go, could you ask just for Amber? We don't know who seconded it. I made the motion, but who seconded it?
Zahid seconded.
Zahid, the Chaudhry seconded.
Okay, thank you, Zahid.
Okay, great. I will ask for the verbal votes from the Chases, Chaudhrys, and Perkle.
This is Andrew for the Chaudhrys. Yes.
Thank you.
For the Perkles, 2 yeses.
Perkles,
2 yeses.
Verbal vote from the Chases. Verbal vote from the Chases. Do we have?
There we go. Yep, there's a yes.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes from the Chases. All right. Do we have an official count?
We have 27 yeses that are recorded and then 6 voice votes for a total of
33.
Thank you.
33. All right. All right. Slate passes. Thank you. Can we clear the board? I will while we're waiting. Okay, great. I will entertain another motion if there is one. I will entertain another motion. Cedar, are you making a motion?
I move that we endorse that slate.
You're motioning to endorse Latta?
I think she wants to endorse the endorsement.
The slate. The slate.
Yes. Okay. Do we have a second?
Keoki, point of order.
We voted for?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm confused. We voted for the slate just now.
We endorsed all 3 of them just now?
We endorsed all 3 of them now. Now I'm just double checking if there's any other endorsements people want to do. Hearing none, we are endorsing Hernandez, Goodwin, and Perkle, and we are not endorsing Latta. And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. It's Latta or Latta?
Latta.
Latta. Okay. All right. Great. Is there a question from Sharon Abreu?
Coming back in now.
Oh, yeah, not seeing one. All right, they're all in? Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. I want to, so these are candidates.
Keoki?
Yes.
I did have something to say, but I could not unmute myself.
Ah, okay.
That's why you have to raise your hand to do that.
Well, no,
my hand has been raised and he saw it, but I was muted and I couldn't unmute.
Okay.
No, I just want to say one thing. I don't know Latta at all.
Oh, wait, hold on. So is this something that we should be speaking just us? Because I think the candidates are back in.
Yeah.
I tried to talk. I couldn't unmute.
Can we put the candidates back in the waiting room, please?
Damn it. I hate not being able to unmute myself.
Yeah, we need to figure out a system. I was having trouble earlier with my audio as well, and still can't hear Cedar.
Should I speak now or not yet?
Well, let me check. Are the candidates in the waiting room?
They're gone.
All right, go ahead, Sharon.
All right. I don't know Lara at all. I just wanted to say that I threw my hat in the race for Charter Review Commission for exactly the reason he said he did, because I saw that a whole bunch of property rights people were throwing their hats in, and I wanted to make sure that they were not the only ones doing that. You know, so I'm just saying that it is not, it's a legitimate reason to do it. It doesn't necessarily mean you want to change things. It just doesn't mean you don't want things to go the way of the property rights people or, you know, Republicans or whatever.
Okay. All right. Are you making a motion?
I guess not. But I just wanted to,
all right.
I mean, I want to go with defer to what other people want to do. I just felt that I would say that because I literally threw my hat in for the same reason he did.
Okay, great. And I'm glad you got to speak, and I apologize for there's a time situation here that we will definitely try to mitigate. So, Catherine Heller, do you have a question, or are you making a motion?
Yeah, I would like to move to endorse John Latta, so we can hear, just do an up and down vote. So I'd like to move to.
Okay, so that's your motion is to endorse. Carol McMahon, you were next. Were you seconding that motion?
Yes, I was.
All right, great. We have a motion. Catherine Keller, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I guess in the calculus of what I'm understanding is going on, I think it's a good thing when people step forward to want to be part of your crew, to have a crew. When I found out it was a committee of 15, I think there's a value in somebody stepping forward for a legitimate reason, unless there's a reason why not, to have and develop people on your side and what's going to be coming up in the next year. So I'll just leave that there.
Okay.
So I wanted to hear more, is why I wanted to put this on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have anybody speaking against?
I just have a point of order.
Yes, Amber.
I'm curious if somebody in the district can tell us more about this race. If like, has before we move to endorse and vote, has he applied for other endorsements? I'm just wondering what makes him progressive versus a Democrat.
Good question. Thank you.
I didn't hear anything of that nature yet. So
yeah. So I believe the Perkles are in there. Sharon, I don't think you're in Clark County. So I'm gonna see that your hand is up, but I'm gonna go to the Perkles first because I think they can speak to that question. Go ahead, Perkles.
We're actually in the 49th, which is the progressive district in Clark County. He's in the 18th, and Thomas is in that district with him. But in the workings we've dealt with him and his wife, they are not progressive by any means. So they don't believe in Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, or any of the progressive issues we have. You looked at his answers on his endorsement form, you could see that.
Yeah. All right, and now Thomas, you're in his district. What do you have to say?
I'm also with him as I'm in his LD 18, and I'm get a second of what the Perkles are saying. He's not really that progressive.
All right. Thank you. So that answers Amber's question. So now we are moving to a vote.
Did you take 2 for and 2 against? You've had 1 for, 1 against.
Yeah. Do we have anyone for? Anyone speaking for?
If not, then we go to a vote.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, you're speaking for. Go ahead.
Okay, it's as much a question as anything else. If he were to be elected, do we feel that he would caucus with our other members who have been endorsed?
Okay. So that would be a question for, I'm going to give it to Thomas. Thomas, as somebody that's there, do you feel this is a candidate who would caucus with you and the rest of the progressives on there?
I don't really feel it's for him to answer for his. I don't think that's fair. Ask the candidate or don't get the answer. But what he doesn't, you can't speak for him. I think.
Do you still want me to answer your question, Keoki?
Well, yeah, I'll ask you the question. As a progressive,
yep.
Do you feel that this candidate would work with you on progressive issues, knowing what you know about him as a progressive or non-progressive?
I mean, he might lean towards them, but not go full on day one.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that was not a question, so I have to go back. Is there anybody, thanks Thomas, is there anybody willing to speak for the motion? And Amber, I see your thumbs up.
Yeah, from looking over what is in there, it just seems like we should preserve some of our progressive values in the endorsements, and that there are many avenues for endorsements for him locally within the Democratic Party, but we do need strong champions to earn this badge of honor, I would say.
Okay. So
I am not for this motion.
Right, you were not speaking for. Is there anyone speaking? Wait, we had a for, we had against. Andrew was for. Do we have anyone speaking for the motion?
I'd like to say that I'd like to speak for, in that I have heard no compelling factual specific detail that would outline why we wouldn't support this candidate. So it is concerning to me that we would be so quick to offer sort of a judgment because of some very soft language. I'm not immediately convinced that this doesn't feel a little inside baseball. So that concerns me. And I mean, politics, that's disgusting. But I do want to say, joking aside, I don't know that we've given this the accurate or enough of a look.
Okay. And so you're speaking for. I have one more, whoever's speaking against. Is there somebody speaking against? I'll ask a second time. Bunny Hatcher, go ahead.
It's not allowing, okay.
You're good, go ahead.
Okay. For me, the deal breaker was his seeming enthusiasm for nuclear, as I read through all of his answers. If you need me to pull it up.
It's that as well. And DNC.
Yeah, I believe the only reliable and currently viable carbon-free source to supply baseload electrical power is nuclear energy. And disagrees with our platform on placing a moratorium on new or expanded nuclear power. That's my deal breaker.
All right. And with that, debate is over. So we have debated endorsement of this candidate. It is now time to vote. I will be asking our verbal voters, the Chases, the Chaudhrys, and the Perkles, to give me your vote.
Chase's vote no.
Thank you.
Perkles vote no.
Thank you, Perkles. Chaudhry's.
Chaudhry's vote no.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so I believe the threshold is, where's our threshold with this one, Justin?
We are still at 22.
Still at 22, okay.
To endorse.
To endorse. Jessica, do we have the count?
We have 4 yes votes, 21 recorded no votes plus 6, so that's 27 no votes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the debate. All right, please clear. It's clear. Thank you. If we can get the candidates back in and let me know when they get in here. Thank you very much. Are they all in?
Yes.
All right, thank you. First off, to the charter review candidates, I want to thank you for your patience. This was very deliberate and careful deliberation of the vote. I am very happy to congratulate Steve Perkle, Chris Goodwin, and Thomas Hernandez on receiving the endorsement of the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Candidate John Latta, you did not receive the, you did not make the threshold for an endorsement. But thank you very much for answering our questionnaire and seeking our endorsement, and good luck to you. Good luck to all of the candidates here. Thank you very much. All right, and for the endorsed candidates, if we haven't gotten these already, please send links to your social media to us so that we can put them in the chat and to our other members. This concludes the live stream portion of the Washington State Progressive Caucus endorsement meeting. And I would like to get to be told when we're off. Are we off?